Chapter 209 Meng Lang, Loose Immortal Realm Level 6. Before coming, Guan had already observed with his divine sense that the strongest on the island was slightly stronger than a divine soul true lord, but not by much. If there was a heaven and earth flying immortal, he would not have dared to come. If there was a heaven and earth flying immortal, then there could be an even higher realm. If the strongest on the surface was only a wandering immortal, there should not be a more terrifying existence hidden in the shadows. Even if there was, as long as Guan did not cause trouble, nothing should happen. He went to the Sea Protection Mansion in the city, intending to conduct a transaction and register for an identity token, which would allow him to enter and exit the various buildings. This was information he had gathered with his divine sense earlier. The Sea Protection Mansion was very large, with many cultivators coming and going, covering an area of 100 miles. As soon as Guan entered, a servant greeted him. "Senior, may I ask what you are here for?" "To register for an identity token." "All right, let me take you there." "This way, please." The servant's demeanor was very respectful and enthusiastic. Guan followed him. There were many servants like him. Although their attire was not luxurious, it was clean and respectful. From the color of their clothes, their status in the Sea Protection Mansion could be judged. The clothes of this servant were the most common. After asking Guan if he was a newcomer, the servant began to introduce the Sea Protection Mansion and the island to him. This island was called Immortal Seeking Island, a famous neutral island in the ocean. Transactions could be conducted here safely. If something went wrong, the island master would ensure justice. Moreover, connections could be made with great sects such as the Star Sea Congregations, Seven Star Spirit Realm, and Deep Sea Spirit Palace. When introducing the background of Immortal Seeking Island, the servant was not arrogant, remaining humble, which Guan found impeccable. When Guan asked for his name, the servant was flattered and quickly introduced himself. Actually, even without his introduction, Guan already knew, but it was necessary to go through the formalities. Hu Shaojian, Nascent Soul Realm, Second Layer 480/860/2200. A lifespan of this extent could make him a genius in the Supreme Sect, but on Immortal Seeking Island he could only serve as a servant. Guan sighed inwardly. "By the way, Senior, have you reached the Immortal Path Realm? If so, I can guide you to obtain a high-rank identity token which comes with various benefits." Hu Shaojian asked cautiously. He could tell from Guan's extraordinary bearing, though not overbearing, that Guan was likely a great cultivator who had returned to simplicity. Guan responded affirmatively, making Hu Shaojian even more excited. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, under Hu Xiaojian's guidance, Guan arrived at a large hall where most of the cultivators coming and going were in the Mahayana realm or Nirvana realm. The Nirvana realm cultivators were likely outsiders like Guan, while the Mahayana realm cultivators belonged to the Sea Protection Mansion. As for loose immortals, they were rare to encounter. Hu Shaojian approached an elderly man and explained Guan's intention. The elder immediately stood up and led the two to a side hall. Chu Feng, Nirvana Realm, 5th Layer 3860/15000/17000. Guan silently noted this information, then followed Chu Feng. Chu Feng took a white jade token, uninscribed, from a redwood cabinet, handed it to Guan and said, "Inject your mana into this, then silently recite your name to register." Guan took the white jade token, adjusted his cultivation level, and injected his mana. After a few breaths, he raised the identity token to show Chu Feng. "Meng Lang, Loose Immortal Realm, 6th Layer." Chu Feng read aloud, then quickly raised his hand in salute, respectfully addressing him as senior. Hu Shaojian was even more excited, also saluting. Guan put away the identity token and casually asked, "I heard there are many benefits to a high-rank identity token?" Chu Feng nodded and respectfully introduced the benefits of a high-rank identity token. Tax transaction discounts, permanent cave residence, allocation of 5 servants, and more. Guan was very pleased with what he heard and ultimately decided to have Hu Shaojian lead the way, making Hu Shaojian feel flattered while Chu Feng smiled and encouraged Hu Shaojian. Thus, Guan began his procurement journey on Immortal Seeking Island. First, he had to exchange for spirit stones. It was worth mentioning that on Immortal Seeking Island, the basic currency was a top-grade spirit stone. Low-grade and mid-grade spirit stones were not allowed here. Low-rank cultivators did not even have the qualification to enter the island, a harsh reality. But on second thought, who below the Nascent Soul Realm could cross the ocean to reach Immortal Seeking Island? Immortal Seeking Island was surrounded by millions of miles of sea, with no other islands around. As for the mainland, it was even farther away. To Hu Shaojin, the 7-star spirit realm was a distant power. He had heard most about the Star Sea congregations, the overlords of the ocean. In the evening, Guan returned to Mystic Valley. Purchasing medicinal herbs took time, not a one-time deal. However, Immortal Seeking Island had plenty of high-rank medicinal herbs, even offering 9th-rank medicinal herbs, enough to meet Guan's needs. It was said that every few decades, Immortal Path Spirit trees might even be auctioned on Immortal Seeking Island. After greeting the disciples in the valley, he went upstairs. Once the procurement was done, it would be time to publish Journey to the West. Today's trip to Immortal Seeking Island had put Guan in a good mood. Using the name Ming Lang was a way to commemorate an old friend. He was not worried about being recognized. Most people who knew Guan would never reach Immortal Seeking Island in their lifetimes. As for geniuses like Xian Tianyi and Hao, without advancing to the Immortal Path realm, they would find it difficult to come. If Xian Tianyi had connections with the Star Sea congregations, he might have the chance to go to Immortal Seeking Island, but he had never heard of Ming Lang. Guan thought that many years later, if he met Xian Tianyi overseas, Xian Tianyi's expression would be interesting. Speaking of Xian Tianyi, that guy was still recovering from his injuries in the Supreme Sect. Who knows when he would recover his strength? Guan set aside these thoughts and focused on writing. A month later, having just turned 98, Guan came to Nianchu Cave. He found Tian Yaoer and brought her into his grotto heaven, then took out a large number of medicinal herb seeds and handed them to her for planting. Looking at the multitude of seeds, Tian Yaoer's eyes widened, her breath quickening. How long will this take to plant? Guan had spent all his wealth, yet only a quarter of it was used. He chuckled softly. These seeds are at least 7th order. Be careful, if you ruin any, I'll have to hold you accountable. 7th order? 7th order? Tian Yaoer was stunned, then thrilled. With so many high-rank medicinal herbs properly planted, the spiritual energy here would be abundant, wouldn't it? She immediately began to take action. Guan, on the other hand, infused his mana into the ground, converting it into 5-element spiritual energy. Relying solely on the grotto heaven to absorb earth spirit energy was too slow. Fortunately, the Heaven and Earth Primordial Skill documented a sorcery on how to convert mana into spiritual energy. Busy days awaited. Time flew by, and the immortal cultivation world welcomed a period of peace. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. Guan's total lifespan had reached 6,700,000 years. He had planted all the high-rank medicinal herbs he had purchased in his grotto heaven, but the maturity time for 7th-order medicinal grass was extremely long, so he had to be patient. Though the wait was long, once harvested, it would be an enormous amount of lifespan. Moreover, 7th-order medicinal grass had a strong life force and required little oversight. That year the Supreme Sect had grown much stronger. Meanwhile, the Taizong dynasty and the Tianwei dynasty had begun to war, while the Great Jiang dynasty remained stable, not participating in the conflict. The dynastic struggles were cruel but not a catastrophe, having no impact on the immortal cultivation world. Guan planned to achieve core formation that year. His surface cultivation level needed to be improved. One day at noon, Xian Tianyi came to visit Guan. As they entered the house to chat, Xian Tianyi cast many restrictions first. He was now the strongest cultivator in the Supreme Sect but still deployed many restrictions, indicating his awareness of several great cultivators infiltrating the Supreme Sect. Did you see the celestial phenomenon from that battle? Xian Tianyi turned to Guan and asked solemnly. Guan nodded, then motioned for him to sit and talk. Bam! Xian Tianyi slammed the table in fury, cursing, I was schemed against by the 7-star spirit realm. A bunch of bastards. This isn't over. Guan's eyelids twitched. Why are you telling me this? He suddenly suspected that the Divine Soul True Lord's hostility towards him a few months ago was due to investigating Xian Tianyi's connections. The 7-star spirit realm? Are you talking about the Holy Land? Guan asked cautiously. Xian Tianyi sat down, took a deep breath and said, Yes, I was thrown into the evil demon's sealing ground by cultivators from the 7-star spirit realm. If not for Sword Venerable Fudeo's intervention, they would have wanted to eliminate me completely. How hateful. Divine Soul True Lord, just you wait. Guan said worriedly, the Holy Land is powerful. You mustn't be reckless. Even the entire Supreme Sect wouldn't be enough. Xian Tianyi looked at him and snorted, I know that, but am not just a disciple of the Supreme Sect. Am also a disciple of the Star Sea congregations. My peers have already infiltrated the Supreme Sect. Am planning to head south and inform my master about this. The Star Sea congregations and the 7-star spirit realm both follow the righteous path and do not harm the common people. I will ensure the 7-star spirit realm doesn't have it easy. How bold. You have a backer and you didn't say so earlier? Forcing me to take risks? Guan complained inwardly, feeling helpless. Shen Tianyi, seeing through his thoughts, said with a hint of regret, after all, it is the 7-star spirit realm. Without a legitimate reason, the Star Sea congregations would not act. I don't have that kind of influence, but if I had evidence it would be different. Anyway, the 7-star spirit realm won't have a good time coming. Guan cautioned him, though I don't know how powerful the Star Sea congregations are, be careful. The journey south is long, if anything happens on the way. He didn't finish his sentence, but Shen Tianyi understood. No worries. I will be accompanied by other disciples of the Star Sea congregations, and there will be Immortal Path seniors overseeing from abroad. The 7-star spirit realm won't dare to act rashly. Shen Tianyi reassured him. Guan felt relieved. Shen Tianyi then said, you focus on your cultivation. Someday it'll take you into the Star Sea congregations. You might gain immortal destiny. Guan shook his head. Forget it. The ocean is a place for the high and mighty. As a mere mortal, I'll stay in the supreme sect. I don't want to be a burden. Shen Tianyi tried to persuade him further but was diverted by Guan, who asked him when he would return. Shen Tianyi said it depended on the situation, ranging from a few years to several decades. But he would definitely return, as his next goal was to help develop the supreme sect. Although he was angry, he saw this as an opportunity. If the Star Sea congregations pressured the 7-star spirit realm, the supreme sect could develop. Even though he now belonged to the Star Sea congregations, he wanted to help the supreme sect. In any case, he believed that no matter how the supreme sect developed, it could never catch up to the Star Sea congregations. Chapter 210, Journey to the West emerges, shocking the world. Guan chatted with Shen Tianyi for a full 2 ancient hours. Before leaving, Guan even gave him half a set of Journey to the West. So many years had passed, he had already written Journey to the West, but he wanted to release it later and kept refining his calligraphy, so he had rewritten Journey to the West many times. The reason for giving Shen Tianyi only half was because he was afraid Shen Tianyi might leak it. Always leave some suspense. After Shen Tianyi left, Guan followed downstairs and rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to the Mystic Valley. Yilan was waiting for him in the pavilion. He dismounted from the Blood Prison Great Saint's back and leisurely went upstairs. When the two met, they exchanged pleasantries. Over the past year, Yilan had been very busy and could only come to see him during the Spring Festival. Senior brother, you are turning 100 this year. How about a celebration? Yilan asked with a smile. Guan shook his head and said, why would a cultivator celebrate a big birthday? No need, I don't like trouble. Yilan nodded and didn't press further. She just mentioned it casually. After all, 100 years was an important milestone. They started chatting. Yilan didn't have any special reason to see Guan, she just missed him. They talked about everything from the supreme sect to the immortal cultivation world, and even about the common folk. Most of the time Yilan did the talking and Guan chimed in. A long time passed. Guan was concerned about her primordial reincarnation skill. Yilan said that she practiced it daily, although her cultivation level hadn't increased, she could feel the accumulation of the primordial reincarnation skill. Guan took out a large number of prepared supreme-grade elixirs for her, telling her to take them promptly. In 20 years she would need to unseal the primordial reincarnation skill. By then, it was unknown how much her maximum lifespan would increase. Faced with Guan's gifts and arrangements, Yilan did not refuse and instead showed a happy smile. Seeing her smile, Guan couldn't help but shiver. Junior sister, don't misunderstand, I will always be your senior brother, Guan said seriously. Yilan nodded with a smile. She stood up, walked to Guan's side and placed her hands on his shoulders. It had always been him who patted others' shoulders. Only his junior sister could pat his. Ah well, she was his junior sister after all. Sit down, no hands on. Oh, senior brother, I won't do anything inappropriate just like last time. You dare mention last time? What's wrong with a little touch? I promise I won't go further. Don't speak such bold words, sit down, I have something to tell you. Say it, I'll just stand by your side. 3 days later, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to the outer gate city. He made his way to the book collection hall. The great elder of the book collection hall, Feng Shang, personally received Guan. After they were seated, Feng Shang asked with a smile, Shattering the Void is finished. Do you have a new book in mind? Though Shattering the Void's reputation wasn't as great as Investiture of the Gods, it made a lot of money, benefiting not only him but the entire Outer Gate City as well. Their Outer Gate City had become the top among the 8 Outer Gate cities, with Sword Venerable Fudao in martial and Pan in literature. Every time he read Investiture of the Gods, Feng Shang felt Guan resembled Sword Venerable Fudao. But thinking that Guan was not yet 100 years old, he found his speculation absurd. Though perhaps Pan was somehow related to Sword Venerable Fudao, maybe this was why Pan refused to write about Sword Venerable Fudao, fearing people might discover the connection. Guan took out 5 books from his storage bag, which were the first half of Journey to the West. Feng Shang picked up the topmost book and seeing the cover, he couldn't help but read aloud, Journey to the West? The name sounded ordinary. He was a bit disappointed, but considering Pan's fame, even an ordinary book would earn spirit stones. He began to read and after a few moments his expression changed slightly. He straightened his back and read more intently. As time went on, his right hand began to tremble. When he read about Sun Wukong causing havoc in the Heavenly Palace, he couldn't help but slap his thigh in excitement. Guan shook his head and laughed. He stood up and said, "The books are yours. Leave the rest to you." Having worked with the book collection hall for so many years, he naturally didn't worry about them deceiving him. Upon hearing this, Feng Shang quickly stood up, excitedly saying, "Journey to the West will definitely be a hit. This is a divine book comparable to Investiture of the Gods. No, it's even better than Investiture of the Gods." Journey to the West had a stronger narrative ability and the plot was highly engaging. Watching Sun Wukong's birth, his struggle for kingship, and his journey to the sea to seek immortality, he felt it resonated well with the cultivators in the immortal cultivation world. Furthermore, when the heavenly court appointed Sun Wukong as the horse's fortune, and he endured humiliation in heaven, he couldn't help but anticipate Sun Wukong's rebellion. He hadn't expected Sun Wukong to actually cause havoc in the heavenly palace. It was truly powerful. Feng Shang genuinely admired Guan, who could think of anything. Moreover, the spells, dharma treasures and powers in Journey to the West felt real, as he had heard similar legends before. There were stories of a dragon palace under the sea, immortals in the heavens and sages overseas among others. Guan smiled at him and without saying much, turned and left. Feng Shang watched Guan walk out the door with sunlight shining on him, feeling dazed. Truly an immortal. Guan found the Blood Prison Great Saint and rode it away from the book collection hall. Along the street, he occasionally encountered old acquaintances, greeting them with a smile. After the Ji family withdrew from the Supreme Sect, the Zhou family also switched to the Zhangtian sect. The departure of the two great families happened quietly. Had it been decades earlier, the Supreme Sect would have been severely weakened, but now there didn't seem to be any impact. Instead, the Supreme Sect had grown even stronger. However, Guan heard other family names from the passing cultivators. This was the Supreme Sect. When some left, others would take their place. This was a sign of continuous prosperity. Who knew when the Supreme Sect would reach the levels of the 7-star Spirit Realm and the Star Sea congregations? At that time, how many of his old acquaintances would still be around? Guan's thoughts drifted with the bumping of the ox's back, fantasizing about scenes thousands or even tens of thousands of years in the future. A blink of an eye. Another year passed. This year, the Supreme Sect's first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament was about to commence, but the hottest topic was a book. Journey to the West. With the release of Pan's Journey to the West, the entire immortal cultivation world was shaken. Initially thought to be another mediocre book like Supreme Immortal Venerable or Shattering the Void, it turned out to be a classical type like Investiture of the Gods. Great Sage equaling Heaven's Sun Wukong became the most popular name in the Three Dynasties immortal cultivation world. Pan was once again elevated to a godlike status. With just one Journey to the West, people no longer doubted his talent, and some even claimed that Journey to the West was superior to Investiture of the Gods. LV Badian seized the opportunity to leverage the popularity of Journey to the West, declaring that the person who won the top spot in the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament would earn the title of Great Sage. This ignited even more interest and anticipation for the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament. Because of Journey to the West, Pan's fame within the Supreme Sect even overshadowed Sword Venerable Fudao for a while. Pan had initiated a trend of book chasing in the immortal cultivation world. Now he once again outshone Sword Venerable Fudao through his literary work. In fact, many immortal cultivation stories had emerged after Pan, but most cultivators still felt Pan's writings were the best. Guan thought this was due to the initial euphoria of the first read, as the immortal cultivation world certainly had many literary talented cultivators. One day, Guan rode the blood prison great saint once again to the outer gate city. He felt there would be some excitement to watch today. The city was bustling with people, cultivators coming and going ceaselessly, very lively, almost like celebrating the spring festival. Guan saw many cultivators in strange costumes, and even shape-shifting demons. Now the Supreme Sect had begun recruiting demon clan disciples with great results. Each year around 10,000 shape-shifting demons would come to apprentice. The main character in Journey to the West being a demon had made the entire demon community more favorable towards the Supreme Sect. Arriving at the surroundings of the heavenly repair platform, the blood prison great saint halted. He heard people around talking. "Have you read Journey to the West? The book collection hall put up another batch yesterday, and I managed to get a copy. Then lend it to me. I read an unofficial version that doesn't contain Pan-An's handwriting." Recently, more and more people have been challenging the heaven-cutting axe. They say that whoever can lift the heaven-cutting axe can secure the top spot in the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament. You're joking. Even the champion can't possibly lift the heaven-cutting axe. Some were talking about Journey to the West, some about Sword Venerable Fudao, but most were discussing the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament. Guan silently counted down. After a while, he thought to himself, here it comes. A dominating aura enveloped the heavenly repair platform, followed by a loud voice that echoed throughout the city. "I am the foremost cultivator of Lingxia, Qiao Dai. All of you move aside. I want to challenge the heaven-cutting axe." Boom. The entire city trembled. Everyone looked towards the sky above the heavenly repair platform and saw a majestic figure floating in the air. It was a man in a yellow robe wearing a golden crown and a python belt, with an aura like a swirling dragon around him. Guan cast a lifespan detection spell on him. Qiao Dai, Mahayana Realm 9th Layer 898/8900/8900, an extreme lifespan of 8,900 years. Among Nirvana dead, he was second only to Anhao and the Blood Prison Great Saint, even surpassing Shen Tianyi. Guan could feel that this person contained chi blood beyond the Mahayana realm. Of course, it was only beyond. Reaching the Nirvana realm was impossible. The weakest in the Nirvana realm was stronger than the strongest in the Mahayana realm. This was the barrier between the mortal and the immortal. People around the heaven-cutting axe gave way and Qiao Dai descended. Many were discussing where Lingxia was. Guan knew about Lingxia. It was the dynasty in the far north of the continent, created by the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Everyone in that dynasty was a descendant of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm cultivators. But the territories of the three dynasties hadn't interacted with Lingxia yet. Zuijian stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, eyeing Qiao Dai. Qiao Dai exuded an emperor's aura, and with each step, a dragon's roar accompanied him, which made Zuijian secretly marvel. When he reached the heaven-cutting axe, Qiao Dai didn't try to lift it immediately. Instead, he looked at Zuijian and said, "Move away so you don't get hurt." "You?" Zuijian was instantly infuriated, crumpling the Journey to the West in his hand. An elder in the Unification realm appeared out of thin air and said, "Listen to him, everyone back off." Upon hearing this, Zuijian reluctantly retreated. The cultivators meditating around the righteous words also got up, including Dixia. Jihan Tian appeared among the crowd, watching Qiao Dai with solemn eyes. The Ji family had close ties with the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, and he had met Qiao Dai in the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. At that time he was still young and Qiao Dai was already the most famous genius in the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. Though most of the Ji family had joined the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, Jihan Tian had a strong aversion to it, which made him dislike Qiao Dai. He couldn't help but say, "Without immortal path cultivation, don't dream of challenging." Chapter 211 The unfathomable Guan. Qiao Dai ignored Jihan Tian's provocation and fixed his gaze on the heaven-cutting axe. Everyone looked at him. Over the years, there were countless cultivators who came to challenge the heaven-cutting axe, but few had such a commanding presence like him. The number one cultivator in Lingxia, it sounded quite intimidating. Though Qiao Dai appeared calm, in fact he was very nervous inside. In recent years, Sword Venerable Fudao's prestige was incredibly strong, spreading widely even within the spirit realm. Qiao Dai knew he could not possibly be a match for Sword Venerable Fudao, but since the heaven-cutting axe was merely a treasure left behind by Sword Venerable Fudao, he still had confidence in lifting it. He raised his right hand and gripped the handle of the axe. At the moment he grasped it, he felt an unprecedented heaviness. His brows furrowed and he immediately began to exert force. Rumble, The heavenly repair platform quaked and everyone watched him nervously. No matter which sect they were from, the cultivators on the platform did not want him to lift it. The disciples of the supreme sect cared about face, while disciples from other sects cared about opportunity. Who wouldn't want to become the heir of Sword Venerable Fudao? To this day, Sword Venerable Fudao had become a figure of worship for all sects under 3 dynasties. Under Guan, the blood prison great saint secretly marveled. He too wanted to try lifting the heaven-cutting axe. So far, the only person he couldn't surpass was the one on his back. This fellow named Xiao Dai was different. The blood prison great saint could sense that Xiao Dai's cultivation level was even higher than his own. If Xiao Dai couldn't move the axe, then he would have no hope. This made him even more wary of Sword Venerable Fudao. Just leaving a Dharma treasure on the platform, and over the years no one could lift it, let alone move it. It was unimaginable how high Sword Venerable Fudao's cultivation realm must be. Xiao Dai also started using a secret technique, making his momentum soar, causing even the outer city to tremble. More and more figures appeared on the heavenly repair platform, all high-ranking members of the Supreme Sect. They looked at Xiao Dai with eyes full of fear. But as they watched, the great cultivators of the Supreme Sect began to smile. The momentum was terrifying, but it was useless. If it couldn't be lifted, it just couldn't be lifted. Zuijian watched Xiao Dai's contorted face with silent glee. Let him be arrogant. With such limited skills, he dared to challenge the heaven-cutting axe? In the end, Xiao Dai did not become like Shen Tianyi or Ji Shenling. He only attempted for a few breaths before his momentum suddenly receded. He stood straight, withdrew his right hand and said, "As expected of Sword Venerable Fudao, I Xiao Dai admit defeat." His voice echoed throughout the city, resonating endlessly. Even though his words were boastful, many people wanted to ask who he was, having never heard of him before. But recalling Xiao Dai's earlier momentum, no one dared offend him. Not daring to offend Xiao Dai, they all praised Sword Venerable Fudao instead. Suddenly, the heavenly repair platform became lively, and everyone started discussing the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao. Xiao Dai looked at Jihantian and snorted, "Where is your sect leader? I want to meet him." Jihantian nodded, then motioned for Xiao Dai to follow. The two quickly left the outer city. Guan patted the back of the blood prison great saint, signaling it could go. After leaving the outer city, Guan said leisurely, "In a few years I will let you reach the 2nd level, able to speak human words." Hearing this, the blood prison great saint's eyes brightened. Not being able to speak was really unbearable. He couldn't wait to curse those ants who kept touching him all day long. "But remember, there are things you can say and things you can't," Guan reminded. The blood prison great saint nodded quickly. Actually, there wasn't much he could say, as he had no idea how strong Guan really was. Day by day passed and it came to the end of summer. On the peak of the mountain north of Mystic Valley, Guan was sparring with Chu Jingfeng in swordsmanship. While swinging his sword, Guan's divine sense spread out, surveying the continent inside and out. He saw a heaven and earth flying immortal traversing the sky, descending to the mortal world at the eastern end of the firmament. Over the years he saw many figures coming and going between heaven and earth. Though heaven and earth flying immortals were rare, at his level he could see at least one every day, showing how vast this mortal world was. Heaven and earth flying immortals were not the strongest. Even at the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, Guan's divine sense could not cover the entire mortal world. No wonder it was called the Great Heavenly Spirit Land. This mortal world was truly vast. For Guan, the bigger this world was, the better. The larger the world, the smaller and more insignificant he felt. After a while, Guan sensed a vast aura erupting from the eastern direction, far from the continent, even farther than Immortal Seeking Island. But that aura made his heart tremble. It was very powerful. It didn't seem like the aura of a living being's cultivation, but rather some kind of supreme treasure. Could it be that someone from beyond the heavens came for this mysterious supreme treasure? It seemed highly possible to Guan. At this moment, Chu Jingfeng sheathed his sword, gasping, "I'm exhausted, can't match you." He looked at Guan with a complex expression. Every time he felt his swordsmanship had improved significantly, he would spar with Guan. Each time it seemed he was about to win, but the result was always defeat. The two competed in swordsmanship without using spiritual power, purely relying on qi. Of course, if he couldn't defeat Guan before his qi was depleted, it meant his swordsmanship wasn't superior to Guan's. Guan smiled, "Just a little more, you are much stronger than before." Chu Jingfeng wiped the sweat off his forehead and stared at Guan, asking, "Do you mean you are also improving, or have you been holding back?" He increasingly felt that Guan was unfathomable. Initially he was merely grateful to Guan, but now he felt Guan was either a peerless genius or a high-level cultivator hiding his cultivation. He thought back to the years when the demon of greed caused chaos. The demon of greed had perished in Guan's house, but to this day, no one discovered who had saved Guan. Could it be Guan himself? Guan laughed. Hey, I'm at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm about to reach core formation. Isn't it normal to beat you? Don't forget, I'm ranked 500th on the golden list. Seeing his smug expression, Chu Jingfeng couldn't help but shake his head and smile. Right, why overthink? In any case he was now a cripple weaker than everyone. After chatting for a while longer, Guan gripped his heavenly residence sword and descended the mountain, while Chu Jingfeng sat meditating on the cliff, reflecting on his earlier sword-fighting experiences. The next morning the first Heavenly Strength Tournament officially began. It was said that over 50,000 cultivators and demons had signed up, covering all realms. There were even mysterious Mahayana cultivators participating. Guan did not participate. Instead he headed to Qinya Valley to harvest medicinal herbs. This year he aimed to reach a lifespan of 7 million years. After surpassing the 10 million year mark, he could look forward to a billion-year lifespan. A billion years would bring new abilities, the next time could be 10 billion or even 100 billion years for new functions. The thought was exciting to Guan. If a billion years passed in the real world, how high would his cultivation level be? The sky was clear and the ocean was boundless. Immortal Seeking Island sat on the ocean, small as a speck of dust, but when viewed up close, its prosperity was evident. Guan returned to Immortal Seeking Island, and exchanged all the medicinal herbs he had gathered over the past 3 years for top-grade spirit stones, then began to wander around. He planned to buy some high-quality cultivation elixirs to help Yilan and Xiaochuan. As for others, he wouldn't go out of his way to help them. Enjoying the elixirs he personally refined was good enough. Hu Xiaojin continued to lead the way for Guan, full of enthusiasm. By the way, senior, several months ago, a conflict broke out between the Star Sea congregations and the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. Have you heard about it? Hu Xiaojin asked suddenly, his expression excited. Guan answered, I've been secluded in training, unaware of this. Why did they clash? Hu Xiaojin lowered his voice. It said that a disciple of the Star Sea congregations was killed by the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, so a group of Star Sea congregation cultivators attacked islands affiliated with the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. They fought for 3 days and nights. Many say the Star Sea congregations and Seven-Star Spirit Realm are going to war. They have been at peace for 50,000 years, who knows if it's true. If these two top forces go to war, this ocean will be far from peaceful. Guan first thought of Xiantiani. Was Xiantiani's capability so great? On second thought, yes, a Mahayana cultivator of several hundred years was rare. Even on the ocean he would be a top-tier talent. On Immortal Seeking Island, Guan had only seen a few. The two continued chatting as they moved forward. An hour later, Guan had spent all his spirit stones, reaping abundant rewards. Spending on his junior brothers and sisters, he felt no regret, even if they were destined to die. He was willing to help them live a few hundred or thousand years longer. After dismissing Hu Xiaojin, Guan began to wander Immortal Seeking Island on his own. Immortal Seeking Island was large with numerous cities. Cultivators, demons and spirit beasts were everywhere, making the streets very lively. Suddenly, someone brushed past Guan due to the person's peculiar attire. Guan subconsciously threw a lifespan detection. 9-Fingered Divine Lord, second layer of Traveling Immortal Realm 170800/19000/800000. 17,000 years? Was this 80,000-year maximum lifespan serious? Guan was intrigued. The person's apparent cultivation was only at the Mahayana realm. Even as a 9th-level heaven and earth flying immortal realm great cultivator, Guan couldn't see through his true cultivation level, indicating this man's greatness. Of course, it was also possible that this person was not a wandering immortal, but had his cultivation level fall due to some reason. Guan thought the latter was more likely. He didn't turn back and continued forward. However, the 9-Fingered Divine Lord stopped. He wore a black outfit like a wanderer. His clothes were not fancy, somewhat old, with a bamboo hat and a large wooden box on his back. He looked back, frowning under his hat, eyes filled with confusion. Was it a misperception? The 9-Fingered Divine Lord felt someone watching him earlier but saw no one when he looked back. The strongest on this street was just a loose immortal. He retracted his gaze and continued on his way. 30 minutes later. He arrived at a residence and met a man in a purple robe in the courtyard. "Senior, please have a seat," the purple-robed man said with a smile, respectfully. The nine-fingered divine lord sat down, placing the large wooden box beside him. He calmly asked, "What business do you have with me?" The purple-robed man sat, waved his right hand, and a purple light barrier rose around the courtyard, then quickly disappeared. He looked at the nine-fingered divine lord and whispered, "Senior, I have a lead on the immortal path supreme treasure you sought before. It is somewhat troublesome. It involves the seven-star spirit realm. Do you dare to venture there?" Chapter 212 Strange Aura. After brushing past the nine-fingered divine lord, Guan quickly left Immortal Seeking Island. Although the nine-fingered divine lord couldn't threaten him at the moment, his age of 170,000 years made Guan reluctant to associate with him. Guan had no need to make connections with great powers, he just wanted to avoid trouble. After returning to the Supreme Sect, he went to watch the first Cultivation conference every few days and found it quite interesting. The Supreme Sect created different treasures according to different realms, and it was said that the materials were brought from overseas by Shen Tianyi. The heaviest was a Mahayana realm treasure, heavier than a mountain. Because of this, the Supreme Sect also specially opened a venue and set up layers of restrictions to prevent the ground from collapsing. Since there was no combat, the first Cultivation conference didn't last as long as previous events. In less than half a month, Xiao Dai won the first place and was conferred the title of Great Sage of the Heavenly Peak by the Supreme Sect. Afterwards, Xiao Dai announced his decision to join the Supreme Sect and become an elder, which took Guan by surprise. What is the seven-star spirit realm up to? Sending a Mahayana realm cultivator to the Supreme Sect for no reason? Or are they planting a pawn? Guan didn't ask LV Badian. Even if Xiao Dai had bad intentions, he wasn't afraid. It only took one move to kill the Divine Soul True Lord, and it would be the same for Xiao Dai. However, after autumn arrived, Jihan Tian brought Xiao Dai to find Guan, who happened to be in, so he received them in his building. Xiao Dai sat at the table, looked around the environment and asked, "Are you Panin?" Guan, carrying a cup of tea to the table, responded, "I am Panin. May I ask what business you have with me, senior?" The Ji family had switched allegiance to the seven-star spirit realm, and now Jihan Tian brought Xiao Dai to find him, which made him think deeply. "Sit down and talk," Jihan Tian said with a warm smile, even taking the initiative to pour tea for the two of them. Guan sat down and looked at Xiao Dai. Xiao Dai scrutinized him with an oppressive gaze. "What do you think of the Holy Land seven-star spirit realm?" Xiao Dai asked. Guan was stunned and replied, "The seven-star spirit realm is called a Holy Land. Naturally, I respect it. Why do you ask me this?" Xiao Dai said, "Is Master Beauty from the Oblique Moon 3 Stars Cave in your writing meant to pay homage to the seven-star spirit realm?" Master Beauty was the teacher of Sun Wukong, the protagonist of Journey to the West. Ever since Journey to the West became a hit, Master Beauty was often mentioned. Some even firmly believed that the Oblique Moon 3 Stars Cave, the Spirit Platform and Square Inch Hill truly existed. Guan nodded. Since the Ji family had turned to the seven-star spirit realm, and Xiao Dai came from the seven-star spirit realm, Guan naturally had to go along with their thoughts. If these two still had doubts about him, he could only have Sword Venerable Fudao take action. Seeing Guan nod, Xiao Dai didn't seem pleased. Instead, he frowned and said, "Actually, the seven-star spirit realm is not as good as you think." Upon hearing this, Guan looked at him in amazement. What does this mean? Could it be that Xiao Dai harbored enmity toward the seven-star spirit realm? Jihan Tian chimed in, "The previous great calamity of demons is related to the seven-star spirit realm. We sought you out because we feared you esteemed the seven-star spirit realm too much, and there are some things we need to tell you." Without waiting for Guan to respond, Jihan Tian explained the origins of the demon ancestor and evil demon, leaving Guan dumbfounded. Guan actually knew this long ago but had to act surprised while contemplating their intentions. After Jihan Tian finished, Xiao Dai said, "The actions of the seven-star spirit realm disgust me deeply. Ever since I embarked on the immortal cultivation path, I wanted to be an immortal who saves the world. That was also why I chose to join the seven-star spirit realm. But a friend of mine exposed the crimes of the seven-star spirit realm. He came from the Lin family, whose ancestor was slain by Sword Venerable Fudao after attacking the Supreme Sect. Later, during the siege of the evil demon, the Lin family suffered heavy losses. Taking advantage of this, their adversaries within the seven-star spirit realm sought to exterminate them. Before fleeing, My friend left me a letter exposing the general misdeeds committed by the high-ups of the Six Stars Cave against the Lin family. It took me years to fully accept these facts. Guan felt a sigh of lament at hearing that the Lin family had been abandoned by the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Of course, the Lin family's annihilation was not undeserved, just infighting among dogs. Guan furrowed his brow and said, I am merely a minor cultivator in the Foundation establishment realm. Why are you telling me this? I cannot help you. Don't think of using Pan An's name to expose the Holy Land. I cannot afford to provoke them. Jihantian smiled. Rest assured we are not that reckless. The Seven-Star Spirit Realm is currently too powerful, and even the combined forces of the three dynasties can't shake it. We just hope you won't exalt the Seven-Star Spirit Realm in your books in the future. Qiao Dai nodded and said, Exactly. Your influence is truly great. I used to disdain it until I read your Investiture of the Gods and Journey to the West, only then realizing your prowess. However, I liked your Supreme Immortal Venerable the most. The story of a comeback is more captivating. So that's what it's about. Guan found it both laughable and exasperating. It was just a coincidence. In fact, he was subtly hinting that the Seven-Star Spirit Realm resembled the Buddhism sect of Western Heaven. He pretended to contemplate and then reluctantly agreed to the matter. Seeing Guan seemingly hesitant, Jihantian and Qiao Dai didn't get angry. They too took a long time to process this information when they first learned about it. Not only did they have to expose the evil side of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, but they also had to endure the pressure of confronting it directly. This was, after all, the most powerful force on the continent, with no equal. Guan couldn't help but ask, if the Seven-Star Spirit Realm wishes to enslave all beings, why engage in such roundabout methods? Even the combined forces of our three dynasties are no match for them, right? Qiao Dai replied, Not all of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm is evil. On the ocean, it remains a holy land of the righteous path. Our continent is merely one region of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, governed by the Six Stars Cave and Seven Stars Cave. Over the past tens of thousands of years, the high-ups of the Six Stars Cave sought extreme ways to break through the heavenly destiny, deceiving superiors and subordinates, leading to these consequences. In the unseen world there exists chi fortune and incense. If the beings of the continent detest the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, the other star caves would surely notice. If the beings are exterminated, it would also attract the attention of surrounding forces. Fire can't be wrapped in paper, and most cultivators within the Seven-Star Spirit Realm are unaware of this, considering themselves disciples of the righteous path. Once again it was the parasites within the righteous path committing atrocities, but the parasites of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm were in existence that the beings of the continent couldn't contend with. Guan feigned a sudden realization, then asked a few more questions, even mentioning the Ephemera sect. The reason the Ephemera sect managed to come through the Nine Nether Road was due to the connection between its hierarch, Butcher Immortal Jing, and an elder in the Six Stars Cave. The interwoven interests between the two were immeasurable. It seemed like they were allowing the Ephemera sect to wreak havoc, but in reality, that elder wanted to devour the essence of the origin tree of Ephemera. Once the three dynasties' cultivators sacrificed to the origin tree, the elder would strike, not only reaping benefits but also gaining a good reputation. The continent where the Ephemera sect resided was also a subsidiary of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, extremely distant from here, so far that the cultivators of the Ephemera sect had to rely on the Nine Nether Road. Without Mahayana realm cultivation they would surely die en route through the ocean. The three continued their conversation for an hour. Before leaving, Jihantian urged Guan not to spread this matter. With the current strength of the Supreme Sect, it was completely inadequate to contend against the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, so they had to endure. Guan rose to see them off. Watching Jihantian's departing figure, he very much wanted to ask about the Ji family's true stance towards the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. Currently there were very few members of the Ji family in the Supreme Sect, practically just Jihantian's lineage. Speaking of which, when the evil demon broke free, Ji Xiaoyu gave Guan a jade pendant to temporarily keep. It recorded the crimes of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, and after so many years, Ji Xiaoyu had yet to come to reclaim it. Using his divine sense, he noticed Ji Xiaoyu heading towards the Tianwei dynasty, moving towards the Eastern Ocean. What was this? Running away from marriage? Jihantian and Qiao Dai's visit did not affect Guan's life. In the following days he visited the outer gate city more and more frequently. During the winter season with heavy snow falling. In front of the law enforcement hall's gate in the outer gate city, Guan and Yi Lan stood before a statue. After taking the elixirs from Guan, Yilan said helplessly, "This is too much. Senior brother, don't you cultivate? Are you spending all day making elixirs for me?" Guan patted the snow off her shoulder and laughed softly, "Don't worry. What I gave you is only a small part. The majority I consumed myself. How could you be more important in my heart than myself?" Yilan glared at him but felt deeply moved inside. She wasn't foolish. Guan had definitely given her all the elixirs just to help her achieve the primordial reincarnation skill. She was puzzled. She felt her body was still good, able to live for another 200 years. Why was her senior brother so insistent on her achieving it in the next 20 years? Did her senior brother think she could only live for 120 or 30 years? She didn't ask much as she chose to trust her senior brother. The two started talking about Jinqing. For a long time. Guan bid farewell to Yilan and turned to leave. Watching him walk into the heavy snow, Yilan felt an inexplicable sense of loss. This feeling was strange. She felt she and her senior brother were growing further apart. After leaving the law enforcement hall, Guan began wandering the streets. Although the winter snow was heavy, some streets remained bustling. Arriving in the busy market area, a young disciple approached him and whispered, "The long-lost Supreme Secret Records want to buy? The kind with illustrations." Guan gave him a look of disdain, bypassed him and continued on his way. The young disciple persisted. After a dozen steps of entanglement he finally gave up. "So hypocritical. I spit on you?" The young disciple cursed at Guan's back. As he walked, Guan unknowingly arrived near the book collection hall and suddenly noticed someone reading a book under an old tree beside the hall's courtyard wall. Reading Journey to the West, no less. Guan walked past and curiously asked, "Brother, why don't you read inside? There are seats in there." Foundation Establishment Realm, just average. Even his appearance was average. But Guan felt something off about his aura, so he used lifespan detection. Ying, Foundation Establishment Realm, 8th floor 124/400/5000 Maximum lifespan of 5,000 years? Why is the cultivation level so low? And the name is a woman's? Doesn't seem like she's disguised as a man. Ying looked up at Guan and replied, "It's too noisy inside. It's more peaceful here and I can feel the nature." Then she suddenly scrutinized Guan, hesitated and asked, "Are you Guan?" Chapter 213 Divine Monarch arrives. Great opportunity. Hearing Ying's inquiry, Guan hesitated for a moment and asked, "I am. Do you know me, Taoist friend?" Ying's eyes lit up and she said, "My name is Ying. Senior brother Shen recommended that I come to find you. I was originally going directly to your Medicine Valley but couldn't resist coming to see Journey to the West first." "Senior brother Shen Tianyi?" "That's right. We are from the same sect in the Star Sea congregations. You might not know about the Star Sea congregations, they are a great sect overseas." She started introducing the Star Sea congregations, and Guan listened attentively, pondering why Shen Tianyi had sent her. Guan became increasingly certain that Ying was indeed a woman, merely using some miracle technique to make her aura and appearance resemble that of a man. Such means were truly impressive. Without using divine sense to probe her, she could deceive someone at the 9th level of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm like Guan. How could it not be impressive? However, since she came from the Star Sea congregations, it made sense. The Star Sea congregations had a long history and had certainly produced heaven and earth flying immortals, possessing miracle techniques and divine skills that could deceive the senses of such beings. It wasn't unusual. Ying greatly admired Guan's investiture of the gods and Journey to the West, so her words were filled with praise. For a long time. Guan asked, "Taoist friend, you didn't come just to find me, did you? Coming all the way from overseas just for 2 books? You didn't believe it?" Ying surely had other motives. Ying nodded and said, "To be honest, senior brother recommended me to sit at the Supreme Sect. But fearing I would be bored, he suggested I come to see you. I am indeed very interested in your books." "To sit?" Guan became even more curious. Ying said, "Senior brother fears that the 7-star spirit realm might attack the Supreme Sect. With me around they would at least not dare to act rashly." So impressive? This Foundation Establishment Realm 6th layer cultivator seemed to have a significant background. What background could intimidate the 6 stars cave? Guan pondered while inquiring further, but Ying didn't want to say more. Later, Guan invited her to the 3rd Medicine Valley, but she refused politely, saying she had already rented a residence in the outer sect and would visit him if she felt bored. Guan was just being polite. Since she refused, he naturally wouldn't insist. Yu Yingying suddenly waved her sleeve, transforming into a slender woman in blue clothes, with fair skin and a beautiful face. Her eyes carried a playful and mischievous spirit. Her long hair reached her calves, the ends tied with a red scarf. Guan wasn't too stunned. Yu Yingying was indeed beautiful, but the most beautiful ones he had seen were Tian Yaoer and Ji Xiaoyu. The two women were equally matched in appearance with different temperaments, making it hard to judge. Remember, this is my true appearance. Yu Yingying winked at Guan, then waved her sleeve again, turning back into the ordinary male image from before. Guan feigned a shocked expression, greatly satisfying Yu Yingying's vanity. After leaving her residence address, she turned and left. After she had gone far, Guan finally smiled. Hopefully, this woman could truly become the trump card of the Supreme Sect. 5 years swiftly passed by. During these 5 years, the Supreme Sect encountered no major troubles and developed steadily. Guan's life continued as usual, moving between different medicine valleys and visiting the Immortal Seeking Island about once a year. He also successfully formed a core and officially became a core formation realm disciple, causing quite a stir in the Third Medicine Valley. In the evening, Guan rode on the Blood Prison Great Saint back to Mystic Valley. He spoke, "From today onwards, your cultivation level will be at the second layer." As he finished speaking, he released a bit of the returning primordial spirit path from within the Blood Prison Great Saint, restoring its cultivation level to the second layer, akin to the Foundation Establishment realm. The Blood Prison Great Saint felt the spiritual power within its body surge, filled with excitement. It wanted to let out a loud roar but restrained itself. "Thank you, Master," the Blood Prison Great Saint said respectfully, its voice somewhat hoarse. It had been holding back for too long. Guan, sitting on its back, continued to offer instructions, which the beast listened to intently, fearing to offend Guan in the future. Once Guan finished, he placed his hand on the ox head of the Blood Prison Great Saint, imparting the primordial reincarnation skill to it. The Blood Prison Great Saint's eyes instantly turned vacant, its body halting. Guan wasn't in a hurry, beginning to admire the surrounding scenery. This was a sparse woodland located on a ridge, with views of other majestic mountains in the distance when turning one's head. Guan suddenly noticed a powerful aura approaching the Supreme Sect. Wasn't this the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord he had encountered before on the Immortal Seeking Island? Guan was curious. The Divine Lord's limit of 80,000 years of lifespan had left a deep impression on him. Why would such a powerful figure come to this backward continent? Compared to the surrounding sea areas and continents, the continent where the Supreme Sect was located was indeed backward, naturally due to the seven-star spirit realm. Every 10,000 years, they would instigate a major demonic calamity. How could the human race on this continent ever prosper? After the demonic calamity ended, the seven-star spirit realm was quite restrained, causing no further troubles but sending more disciples down the mountain to establish more connections with the secular world. Because of this, the seven-star spirit realm remained highly regarded in the immortal cultivation world, with many sects hoping to establish friendly relations with them. Guan silently pondered. After a long time, the Blood Prison Great Saint finally awakened, exclaiming excitedly, "What a domineering cultivation technique! Master, if I cultivate this technique for 1,000 years, can I ascend into the realm of immortal path in one leap?" It was willing to be Guan's steed for 1,000 years, with its cultivation sealed. It was perfectly suited to cultivate the primordial reincarnation skill during this time. "That depends on whether you put in the effort," Guan replied with a smile. The Blood Prison Great Saint wanted to say more, but Guan patted its head, transmitting a message that someone was approaching, causing it to shut up immediately. "Let's continue on our way," Guan said. The Blood Prison Great Saint immediately resumed walking. The mountain path wasn't too steep, with the surrounding flowers and birds making the journey refreshing. Just as they exited the forest, a figure approached from ahead. It was the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord, still wearing a straw hat and looking travel-worn. He came before the Blood Prison Great Saint and asked, "May I ask if you are a disciple of the Supreme Sect, brother?" The Blood Prison Great Saint stopped, scrutinizing the man but unable to discern his depth. "I am Guan of the Supreme Sect. May I ask what brings you to our sect, Taoist friend?" Guan raised his hand in greeting, smiling as he asked. The Nine-Fingered Divine Lord had sought out Guan because he observed that among the local cultivators, Guan had the highest cultivation level, thus most likely belonged to the Supreme Sect. The Nine-Fingered Divine Lord looked up at Guan, feeling as if he had seen him somewhere before. However, with Guan only at the core formation realm, having encountered many with similar cultivation levels in his travels, he paid it no mind. I am Taoist Ninefinger, a loose cultivator wandering the world. I've heard of the Supreme Sect's reputation and wish to join. May I ask if you could introduce me? Guan naturally didn't refuse, agreeing readily and began leading the way. The Blood Prison Great Saint walked at a leisurely pace, and the Nine-Finger Divine Lord was in no hurry, using the time to learn more about the Supreme Sect from Guan. He asked many questions and Guan answered them all, his forthrightness furthering the Divine Lord's favorable impression of him. After a considerable time the two grew closer. Taoist friend, could you tell me your cultivation level so that I can decide whether to take you to the outer sect or the inner sect? Guan asked. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord had observed on his journey that to become a high-ranking member of the Supreme Sect, one needed at least an Unification Realm cultivation. To be honest, I am at the 4th layer of the Unification Realm. Taoist Ninefinger said hesitantly. What? Unification Realm? Guan exclaimed, making the Blood Prison Great Saint want to roll its eyes. In the face of Guan's excitement, Taoist Ninefinger remained calm, not relishing the sense of superiority since his real cultivation level was at the 2nd layer of the wandering immortal realm. Energy cultivation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, divinity transformation, void crossing, unification, mystic heart, Mahayana, nirvana, loose immortal, wandering immortal. Pretending to be at a lower realm, he was 4 major realms higher than Guan. In reality, he was 9 major realms higher than Guan. Along the way, Guan's curiosity grew, but his words didn't come across as obsequious, earning more respect from Taoist Ninefinger. As evening approached, they arrived at Mystic Valley. Guan invited Taoist Ninefinger to stay for the night, to which the latter had no objection. Upon entering Mystic Valley, a group of servant disciples greeted them warmly. Seeing these energy cultivation realm cultivators mingling closely with core formation realm Guan, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord noticed that Guan wasn't just respectful on the surface. He was also kind and non-arrogant towards those below him. Guan tasked Lu Jiujia with arranging accommodation for Taoist Ninefinger before retiring to his room to rest. A while later, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord sat cross-legged on his bed, scanning the Supreme Sect with his divine sense. The strongest cultivator in the Supreme Sect was only at the Mahayana realm, posing no threat to him and offering little of interest. He even discovered the existence of the 8 scenic caves but paid it no mind. Everyone had secrets. Guan having a hidden cave was nothing notable, and the herbs within the 8 scenic caves did not attract him. Deep into the night. On the mountaintop, Chu Jingfeng sat meditating, absorbing energy. What cultivation technique are you practicing? The Nine-Finger Divine Lord's voice suddenly came, startling Chu Jingfeng, who turned to look. An hour ago he had seen the Nine-Finger Divine Lord, who was addressed as senior by Guan. He quickly stood up, greeting him, a technique for absorbing energy not worth mentioning. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord scrutinized him and said, "Your natural talents are decent. It's a pity you haven't laid a solid foundation. The technique you're practicing can improve your aptitude, but its effects are limited." Hearing this, Chu Jingfeng felt both relieved and somewhat uncomfortable. Daring to belittle the Taoist expansion skill? The Nine-Finger Divine Lord continued, "I can help you rebuild your foundation and restore your cultivation. Will you become my named disciple?" Chu Jingfeng hesitated and asked, "May I know the senior's identity?" The Nine-Finger Divine Lord's eyes flashed with appreciation. "I am a loose cultivator from overseas. I met your Valley Master. Tomorrow I will join the Supreme Sect. I am an Unification Realm cultivator. According to your Valley Master, becoming an elder shouldn't be difficult." Unification Realm cultivator. Chu Jingfeng was stunned. To him, Unification Realm cultivators were exalted, unapproachable beings. He gritted his teeth and said, "I need to discuss this with the Valley Master. He took me in when I was in distress. I can't just leave." "Haha, talk to him tomorrow then." The Nine-Finger Divine Lord laughed, then turned and left. This foolish boy didn't realize he had encountered a great fortune. Chapter 214 Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. The next morning, Nine-Finger Divine Lord brought Chu Jingfeng to find Guan and expressed his intention to take him as a disciple. Guan was pleasantly surprised and hastily had Chu Jingfeng express his gratitude to Nine-Finger Divine Lord. This gesture deeply moved Chu Jingfeng. Upon hearing that Nine-Finger Divine Lord could help him restore his cultivation level, he felt tempted. However, given all that Guan had done for him over the years, he felt torn and unsure of how to decide. Nine-Fingered Divine Lord also held Guan in higher regard. He could see that Guan was genuinely happy for Chu Jingfeng. This was indeed true. Although Guan was powerful in terms of knowledge and experience, he certainly couldn't match the 17,000-year-old Nine-Fingered Divine Lord. If the Divine Lord sincerely cared for Chu Jingfeng, it would be a turning point in Chu Jingfeng's life. Subsequently, Guan directly instructed Chu Jingfeng to acknowledge Nine-Fingered Divine Lord as his master, making the atmosphere very harmonious. An hour later, they used the teleportation array to reach the Third Medicine Valley and then flew to the Intersect City. Nine-Fingered Divine Lord had long known of the Third Medicine Valley but had not expected it to belong to Guan as well. It wasn't until noon that Guan returned alone to the Third Medicine Valley, while Nine-Fingered Divine Lord and Chu Jingfeng prepared to stay in the Intersect City. Though the true intentions of Nine-Fingered Divine Lord remained unclear, the addition of a wandering immortal was a good thing for the Supreme Sect. If Nine-Fingered Divine Lord caused trouble, Guan could always intervene. Is the fortune of the Supreme Sect rising? Guan sat in his chair, silently pondering. First, Xian Tianyi summoned Yu Yingying of the Star Sea congregations, then Xiao Dai of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm came to surrender, and now a mysterious wandering immortal had arrived. This fortune made Guan marvel. He didn't overthink it and began to practice alchemy. In the dead of night, Guan arrived at Heavenly Phoenix Mountain. He first visited his own grotto heaven and then made his way along the tunnel to Nianchu Cave. The two cat demons had grown up. Though they had not yet shapeshifted, they now appeared as large as leopards, lying prone on the ground, seemingly napping but actually absorbing nature's spiritual energy. Tian Yaoer heard Guan's footsteps and immediately stepped out of the house, appearing before Guan as if teleporting. She was about to throw herself into his arms when he pressed her forehead with his finger, stopping her from moving forward. You are a bit slow, not fast enough. Guan was referring to Tian Yaoer's limitless freedom step. Tian Yaoer pouted and asked, Master, did you go to your grotto heaven first? Yes, Guan responded, then walked past her. The medicinal herbs in the grotto heaven were all at least 7th rank, taking much longer to mature compared to low-rank medical herbs, so he couldn't harvest them yet. However, once he could harvest them, he would surely gain a large amount of lifespan at once. Even without relying on the grotto heaven, Guan could now accrue nearly 300,000 years of lifespan each year. Tian Yaoer caught up and curiously asked, Master, when will we move in there? The grotto heaven was much more spacious, while Nianchu Cave felt too stifling. You can go in any time you want, just don't forget about Nianchu Cave, Guan replied. A look of disappointment flashed in Tian Yaoer's eyes. She had hoped to live with Guan, thinking he was planning to move in because of the many high-rank medical herbs planted there. She didn't press the matter but instead started talking about recent events. The previous night, a great demon had fought in Heavenly Phoenix Mountain, causing a huge commotion that made her very nervous, fearing a demon might break into Nianchu Cave. Their conversation continued leisurely. Soon, Tianqing and Tianbai were awakened by their chatter. Seeing Guan, the two cat demons grew delighted and immediately rushed over. Master! Master, you finally came. The two cat demons' voices sounded sweet, like two young girls coyly addressing Guan. Guan almost got goosebumps. He felt that Tian Yaoer had spoiled these two cat demons. They sat down at the stone table and Tian Yaoer brought out some fine wine saying, Master, do you have more of Journey to the West? I just read the part where Sun Wukong fights the white bone demon. Monk Tang is really frustrating. Guan took out the latest scroll from his storage bag and placed it on the table. He joked, Why didn't you side with the demons? Sun Wukong is also a demon. I support him. Monk Tang may save demons but he's so oblivious. Master, do humans have a legend about seeking scriptures? Tian Yaoer asked indignantly. No, it's just a story I made up. Really? It feels so real. When you become a great demon, you can also rule Heavenly Phoenix Mountain. Hehe, that's what I thought too. When the time comes, he'll call myself the beautiful Phoenix King and form the 7 great saints. Talking about such things excited Tian Yaoer. She chattered on enthusiastically. Guan found it amusing. Indeed, boasting needed no teaching, it came naturally with imagination. As they chatted, Guan sensed a vast aura from a distance. His divine sense instinctively followed, but the aura quickly vanished. Guan speculated it might have come from a minor heaven and earth realm. Thinking of such vastness, he first considered the 7-star spirit realm. Only the minor heaven and earth realm of the 7-star spirit realm could be so well hidden. Of course, Guan's divine sense could locate the minor heaven and earth realm of the seven-star spirit realm, but the restrictions there were highly advanced. Sneaking in unnoticed was beyond his capability. If he forced his way in, it would certainly alert the cultivators of the seven-star spirit realm. Are they up to something again? Guan pondered as he dealt with Tianyao. With the passage of summer into autumn, the weather remained hot. At noon, Guan rode the blood prison great saint to the outer gate city. There he overheard cultivators talking about a recent event. An immortal path supreme treasure. Did you hear? There are signs of an immortal path supreme treasure in the demon land. What's an immortal path supreme treasure? I don't know either. I heard it's an immortal's magic artifact. Possessing it grants the power of an immortal. I heard about it too, but no one knows the exact location yet. Is this immortal path supreme treasure more powerful than the heaven-cutting axe? Guan listened silently, but the blood prison great saint, unable to contain his curiosity, asked, Master, is there really such an immortal path supreme treasure? Guan did not answer but looked ahead. Yu Yingying approached, hands behind her back, her face beaming with a smile. It's true. Want to know more? She asked. The blood prison great saint nodded, eagerly looking at her. However, Yu Yingying rolled her eyes at him and then looked at Guan. Guan smiled and said, Of course, I'm also interested. Come to my residence, I have something to discuss with you, Yu Yingying said, turning to leave. Guan patted the great saint, signaling him to follow. After 30 minutes they were sitting in a courtyard. Yu Yingying and Guan sat across from each other at a stone table. She began to introduce the immortal path supreme treasures. The world has magic artifacts, dharma treasures and immortal treasures. Immortal treasures are magic artifacts crafted at the immortal path realm, only wielded by an immortal's mana. But an immortal path supreme treasure is crafted by the mightiest of the immortal path, each imbued with an immortal spirit. These supreme treasures not only contain immense power but also remain unaffected by the passage of time. The beings who crafted them either left the mortal world or have passed away, but the treasures endure. The Star Sea congregations possess one such supreme treasure, the Star Sea Primordial Unity Banner, which is their church treasure. The Holy Land, the seven-star spirit realm, also has an immortal path supreme treasure, the Seven Stars Mirror, which is likewise their church treasure. Recently, it is said that the seven-star spirit realm discovered another fake immortal treasure, and the entire ocean is competing for it. I hadn't expected the news to spread so widely that even the low-level cultivators of the supreme sect would hear of it. Guan, curious, asked, What is a fake immortal treasure? Yu Yingying explained, It is a damaged immortal path supreme treasure where the immortal spirit is dormant. Though still possessing great power, it pales in comparison to a complete supreme treasure. Guan suddenly suspected that Nine-Finger Divine Lord had come to the supreme sect for this fake immortal treasure. Normally not engaged in combat, Guan wasn't particularly interested in immortal path supreme treasures. He placed more trust in his own mana. Yu Yingying continued to describe other immortal path supreme treasures, each a legendary artifact, claiming that those who obtained them could achieve the immortal path, boasting extravagantly. The blood prison great saint lay nearby, listening intently with a look of longing in his eyes. As Guan listened, he spread his divine sense over the continent, noticing that from all directions, cultivators and demons were arriving from overseas, including several beings at the immortal path realm. He identified 3 wandering immortals and over a dozen nirvana realm beings making their way here. Within the continent he detected the presence of more than 20 wandering immortals, spread out in different areas, all seeking immortal path supreme treasures. Some were even near the minor heaven and earth realm of the seven-star spirit realm, plotting how to infiltrate. Notably, Guan saw that Anhao, Liya, and Jianghu were also roaming the demon clan's territory. Anhao was fighting a great demon of the divinity transformation realm alone. After talking about immortal path supreme treasures, let's discuss Journey to the West, shall we? Yu Yingying suddenly said, her eyes glowing as she looked at Guan. She usually loved reading all kinds of miscellaneous books, especially stories, which was why she got along well with Xian Tianyi. Ever since Xian Tianyi gave her investiture of the gods, she had been fascinated by Pan. And what do you want to discuss? Guan asked. Yu Yingying immediately asked a series of questions, such as whether investiture of the gods and Journey to the West were connected, how many years apart they were, and on which continent the stories took place. She was even curious about how Guan came up with these 2 remarkable books. Guan answered her questions one by one. As for the source of his inspiration, he mentioned meeting 2 Taoists before, one named Su Zhonglin who told him the story of investiture of the gods, and another named Wu Qinzhen who told him the story of journey to the west. Yu Yingying did not doubt him and became even more curious about these two Taoists. She believed that with Gu An's cultivation level, he did not seem to possess such extensive knowledge but simply had literary talent. The Blood Prison Great Saint listened curiously. He knew Guan wrote books but did not know the details. Only when Yu Yingying mentioned the Bull Demon King did he become interested. Guan had given him the name of the Bull Demon King. Had his master written a book for him? Who was Sun Wukong? Could it be the monkey in Qinya Valley? Thinking of those three monkeys, the Blood Prison Great Saint felt angry. Those three always stealthily pulled his fur and he couldn't catch them. 2 hours passed like this. Yu Yingying brought tea and snacks, indicating she had no intention of letting Guan leave. In the few years since arriving at the Supreme Sect, she hadn't sought out Guan because she was busy reading. She had read through all the books in the book collection hall, a determination that impressed even Guan. At that moment, a high-pitched dragon's roar echoed from the sky. Yu Yingying's face changed and she murmured, "Dragon-slaying spear Qi Jiuxiao." Chapter 215. 700,000 years lifespan limit. Dragon-slaying spear Qi Jiuxiao? Dragon-slaying? How arrogant. The Blood Prison Great Saint heard Yu Yingying's words and couldn't help but show a curious expression. He looked up to the south and saw a golden glow appearing in the sky, becoming more and more spectacular, as if the sky was changing color. Guan also turned his head to look. In fact, he had already seen the figure of the approaching person. Nirvana Realm 9 layers. The golden light gradually enveloped the sky above the Supreme Sect. More and more people flew up, looking into the distance. Dragon roars echoed continuously, growing louder, indicating that the person was getting closer. Soon, a 1,000-foot-long 5-clawed golden dragon flew from the horizon. Its majestic and imposing figure shook the outer gate city. Guan saw that in the dragon's head was a long spear, entirely golden, with a golden dragon coiled around the shaft, its mouth spitting out the spear blade, exuding dominance. That was a very extraordinary Dharma treasure. Perhaps it was the immortal treasure that Yu Yingying mentioned. This golden dragon was condensed from the immortal treasure and was not a true dragon. Standing on the dragon's head was a man wearing a gold-patterned white robe, a red belt around his waist. His shoulders were broad, his posture upright. His aura couldn't be concealed. His face was handsome, his long hair coiled under a crown, with 2 strands of black hair hanging in front of his ears, fluttering in the wind. Qi Jiuxiao stood high above, looking down at the Supreme Sect, a smirk on his lips and his gaze arrogant. Guan's gaze locked onto him, throwing a lifespan detection at him. Qi Jiuxiao, Nirvana Realm 9 layers 998/25000/700000, 700,000 years of ultimate lifespan. Very exaggerated. This guy wasn't even 1,000 years old yet and was already in the Nirvana Realm 9 layers? No wonder he was so proud. Who is this person? The Blood Prison Great Saint couldn't help but ask. He could feel that the other party was definitely above the Mahayana realm. Yu Yingying looked up at the sky and said softly, "He is a disciple of the Star Sea congregations with top-notch talent. At the age of 500 he stepped into the realm of Immortal Path. The golden dragon he rides is transformed from the dragon-slaying spear, which is an immortal treasure refined by an ancient immortal. Although it is not as great as the supreme treasure of the Immortal Path, with this spear, even a loose immortal would find it difficult to kill him." Qi Jiuxiao, standing high above, looked down and saw Yu Yingying through the sky. He slightly raised an eyebrow and suddenly leaped down. The city protection array of the outer gate city was instantly disturbed, but it was broken as soon as it appeared, with no resistance whatsoever. He fell like swift thunder, landing in the courtyard of Yu Yingying's residence, startling the Blood Prison Great Saint to his feet, as did Guan. Qi Jiuxiao ignored him and Guan, his eyes fixed on Yu Yingying, and he laughed. "Little girl, what are you doing here?" "Little girl? How did your master teach you to speak?" "Haha, so this is the supreme sect that Shen Tianyi comes from?" Really weak. I heard he wants to deal with the 7-star spirit realm. Your master is running around making connections, but the higher-ups are unmoved." Qi Jiuxiao laughed softly. Seeing Yu Yingying frown, he continued, "How about I go and probe the depths of the 7-star spirit realm for you?" Yu Yingying looked at him and snorted, "With your cultivation level, don't die at the 7-star spirit realm." "Ha! Then watch me seize the supreme treasure of the Immortal Path." With that, Qi Jiuxiao leaped into the air, the golden dragon in the sky transforming into a streak of golden light, flying across the sky and disappearing without a trace. From beginning to end, Qi Jiuxiao didn't even glance at Guan. Yu Yingying snorted coldly, "That guy is truly arrogant, sooner or later he will suffer a big loss." Guan sat down again and curiously asked, "What is your relationship?" "Just fellow disciples, were not on the same path." Yu Yingying shook her head, obviously not wanting to say much about herself. "A Foundation Establishment Realm 8th floor saying she's not on the same path as a Nirvana Realm 9 layers? Though correct, it felt a bit awkward. Guan felt more and more that Yu Yingying was not simple. No wonder Shen Tianyi invited her to the Supreme Sect. He looked at the cause and effect around Yu Yingying, probing her past 20 years. However, he only saw various scenes of Yu Yingying throwing tantrums and being domineering, with Shen Tianyi pleasing her. Letting him stir things up is good. Your Supreme Sect is dissatisfied with the 7-star spirit realm anyway. Yu Yingying continued. Guan remained silent, not responding. Yu Yingying could see that he didn't want to cause trouble. Shen Tianyi had mentioned this before. "Let's continue talking about Journey to the West." Yu Yingying laughed. At this moment, the entire Supreme Sect was in an uproar, all disciples discussing Qi Jiuxiao. In a mansion in the main city of the sect, Xiao Dai stood on the eaves, frowning. Dragon-slaying spear. Why is he here? Could it be that the 7-star spirit realm really has the supreme treasure of the immortal path? But why bring the supreme treasure to this continent? Xiao Dai was filled with confusion. He felt it was not a coincidence. The 7-star spirit realm must have a plan. Qi Jiuxiao's appearance marked the beginning of the competition for the supreme treasure of the immortal path. In the days that followed, powerful presences occasionally swept past the Supreme Sect, and divine senses occasionally scanned the Supreme Sect. This made the atmosphere within the Supreme Sect tense, fearing they would suffer in the crossfire. 5 days later, LV Badian came to find Guan. The two hid in a room to talk. After setting up a restriction, LV Badian couldn't help but sigh. Lately, many great cultivators from overseas are arriving. The peace of this continent is about to be broken. He felt very aggrieved. Those overseas great cultivators freely probed the Supreme Sect without greeting, completely ignoring them. The most crucial part was that the Supreme Sect had to endure it. Not only the Supreme Sect but the 3 dynasties and all sects felt this way. After surviving the demon calamity, all sects were eager to grow stronger. But in just a few years, so many beings at the Immortal Path realm appeared, making them feel like weeds. Before the demon calamity, I lived for hundreds of years without seeing a Mahayana realm cultivator, let alone those at the Immortal Path realm. Now how come there are more and more? LV Badian said troubledly. Guan comforted him. It's okay for now, no one is endangering the Supreme Sect. Their target should be that so-called supreme treasure of the Immortal Path. LV Badian nodded. I just wanted to vent to you. Now the Hall of Elders is on high alert, fearing another calamity may break out. Boom! A deafening roar came from afar, startling LV Badian, cutting off his words. Guan's divine sense swept out, seeing Qi Jiuxiao fighting a Nirvana realm great cultivator far beyond Heavenly Phoenix Mountain. That person should be from the 7-star spirit realm. His aura did not come from overseas but seemed to have suddenly appeared. Qi Jiuxiao was indeed strong, completely suppressing the opponent. Guan sensed a loose immortal aura approaching the battlefield, also emerging from the minor heaven and earth of the 7-star spirit realm. I need to go back. LV Badian stood up and then disappeared from the room. Guan also stood up, walked downstairs and saw disciples gathering. The previous noise had scared them and they couldn't help but be afraid. Lu Lingjun also walked out from inside. She and the Blood Prison Great Saint looked in the same direction. After a while, Lu Lingjun withdrew her gaze and looked at the Blood Prison Great Saint. Why did it seem like the Blood Prison Great Saint was also looking in her direction? The Blood Prison Great Saint felt her gaze and couldn't help but glare at her. Stupid bull. Lu Lingjun shook her head and smiled, then walked towards Guan. The Blood Prison Great Saint couldn't help but curse. You're the stupid one. Oh. Lu Lingjun glanced at him, a terrifying murderous intent locking onto him, making his bull body stiffen. Guan also gave the Blood Prison Great Saint a look, forcing him to lower his head. The Blood Prison Great Saint felt extremely aggrieved. A dignified Mahayana realm cultivator, humiliated by a mystic heart realm cultivator, unable to retort. He now really hated Lu Lingjun. Thousands of years later, I definitely won't join your Ascension sect and I'll even steal your people. Lu Lingjun smiled with satisfaction, then came to Guan. Why do you argue with him? Guan pretended to complain. Upset? I apologize to you, how would I know he has such a bad temper? Usually she was in seclusion, unaware of what the blood prison great saint had gone through. Never mind, treat him better in the future. After all, he's my mount. Guan shook his head, making the blood prison great saint feel very touched. Lu Lingjun laughed, this bull is too weak. If you want a mount, I can get you a stronger one. The blood prison great saint's anger flared up again. Guan feared he would die of anger, so he pulled Lu Lingjun to an isolated place. Lu Lingjun sought him out of curiosity about recent events. Guan didn't hide anything and told her about the rumors of the supreme treasure of the immortal path. Lu Lingjun became interested and flew north directly. Really reckless? Are all ascenders like this? Guan felt helpless. His divine sense locked onto Qi Jiuxiao. This guy was already facing a loose immortal. The loose immortal seemed to be the master of the Nirvana realm cultivator, continually warning Qi Jiuxiao. But Qi Jiuxiao was extremely arrogant, soon starting a fight after a few words. One had to admit that the dragon-slaying spear in Qi Jiuxiao's hand was indeed powerful, capable of both offense and defense, preventing the loose immortal from defeating him in a short time. Of course, Guan could see that the loose immortal was very cautious of Qi Jiuxiao, not dealing a deadly blow. Before long, Qi Jiuxiao was still defeated and had to retreat. The immortal treasure could only protect him from death but couldn't help him kill a loose immortal realm great cultivator. After the battle ended, Guan retracted his divine sense and turned back to the house. In the middle of the night, and Hao walked through the woods holding a map. He had obtained it by chance, and it was said to record the cave of an ancient great cultivator. As he walked, he suddenly sensed something, quickly putting away the map, warily looking around, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Footsteps came from the darkness. He looked closely and saw a man approaching. It was Qi Jiuxiao. And Hao did not recognize Qi Jiuxiao but could sense that the other was very strong. Qi Jiuxiao's face was very bad. He looked at Hao and asked, "Hey, what's your name? Which sect or school are you from?" And Hao frowned. "My name is Hao from the Supreme Sect." Qi Jiuxiao said, "The Supreme Sect? There's a connection. One of my junior sisters is in the Supreme Sect. In light of this connection, give me the 8th rank heavenly material and earthly treasure from your storage bag for my healing, and I won't treat you unfairly." Hearing this, Hao's face changed drastically. How did the other K? Chapter 216, Soaring Dragon 9 Transformations, Divine Exotic City. Qi Jiuxiao noticed Hao's tension, so he raised his hand, took out a scroll, and threw it to Hao. Hao instinctively caught it, then heard Qi Jiuxiao say, "Take a look, this is a divine skill I accidentally obtained." After saying that, Qi Jiuxiao sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate energy to heal his wounds. Hao hesitated for a moment before he delved his divine sense into the scroll. After a while, Hao's face changed dramatically, and the hand holding the scroll trembled. He withdrew his divine sense, then took out an 8th rank heaven and earth treasure from his storage bag, a bright red spirit flower, and presented it to Qi Jiuxiao. Qi Jiuxiao beckoned with his hand, and the 8th rank spirit flower flew into his hand. He stood up, took out a medicine cauldron that was about a zhang tall, tossed the spirit flower into it, and then added numerous medicinal herbs. After lighting the fire, he took out a small bottle and poured water into the cauldron. The small bottle seemed to contain an otherworldly space and never ran dry. When the cauldron was filled with water, Qi Jiuxiao sealed the bottle and put it back into his storage Dharma artifact. He looked at Hao and said, "You can leave now." With that, he leaped into the air and landed inside the medicine cauldron. Hao hesitated for a moment but did not leave. Instead, he sat down under a nearby tree and began to comprehend the divine skill given by Qi Jiuxiao. Soaring Dragon 9 Transformations. Just by looking at the description of the divine skill within the scroll, Hao couldn't help but feel his blood boil. Thus day after day passed. 7 days later, Qi Jiuxiao leaped out from the medicine cauldron. When he landed on the ground, his wet robes quickly dried, and wisps of white smoke coiled around his body. He shrank the medicine cauldron to a small size, stored it in his hand and then emptied it, using his mana to clean out the residue. At the same time he looked into the distance. Through the gaps in the leaves, he saw an azure dragon tumbling in the sky beyond the forest. This kid's comprehension is extraordinary. Qi Jiuxiao was secretly astonished. In just a few days Hao had managed to master the divine skill. Such talent was rare even in the Star Sea congregations. After putting away the medicine cauldron, he disappeared without a trace in the forest. The next second he appeared in the sky, blocking the azure dragon. The azure dragon, which Jianghu had transformed into, was 3 zhang long, not very large but full of imposing presence. Upon seeing Qi Jiuxiao, the azure dragon shook and transformed back into Jianghu, who excitedly said, "This divine skill is amazing. After transforming, I feel like a true dragon, and my speed has increased significantly." Qi Jiuxiao said proudly, "Of course I am Qi Jiuxiao of the dragon-slaying spear. How could I deceive you, kid? The value of this divine skill far exceeds the 8th rank heaven and earth treasure. You should thank me." Upon hearing this, Jianghu immediately bowed and thanked Qi Jiuxiao. Qi Jiuxiao's face was full of smiles, though he felt a bit jealous inside. He had originally thought that even if he passed the Soaring Dragon 9 transformations to Jianghu wouldn't be able to learn it, making himself appear generous without any loss. Who would have thought? Qi Jiuxiao sized up Jianghu and said, "Kid, why don't you join the Star Sea congregations? The Supreme Sect is too small for you. With your talent, if you join the Star Sea congregations, you'll reach the Mahayana realm within 500 years. Jianghu frowned slightly upon hearing this. Reaching the Mahayana realm at 500 years old was impressive? Jianghu had always thought of his own talent as unparalleled, so he didn't see reaching the Mahayana realm in 500 years as a difficult feat. Even Shen Tianyi was only a few hundred years old. Qi Jiuxiao continued to boast about the greatness of the Star Sea congregations. When he mentioned Shen Tianyi, Jianghu finally grew interested. He had a very good relationship with Shen Tianyi. However, in Qi Jiuxiao's words, Shen Tianyi was just a fellow disciple with decent talent. The reason Shen Tianyi was mentioned was that he also came from the Supreme Sect. "Forget it, I'm not going to the Star Sea congregations. I want to stay in the Supreme Sect," Jianghu said, shaking his head. Qi Jiuxiao did not try to persuade him further. After all, he wasn't the sect hierarch of the Star Sea congregations, so making a few recruiting gestures was enough. "Why did you appear in this area?" Qi Jiuxiao asked. Jianghu did not conceal anything and said, "I was originally training and heard the legend of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. I wanted to see it for myself." Qi Jiuxiao laughed and said, "How about joining forces?" "Well, rely on our abilities when the time comes." Jianghu hesitantly asked, "Can my cultivation level really help you? I'm not very familiar with this continent. You can tell me about the events happening here, and I'll guide you in cultivating the Soaring Dragon 9 transformations. How about that?" "Alright, thank you, senior," Jianghu responded excitedly. The reason he did not leave was that he wanted to learn more skills from Qi Jiuxiao. Then the two of them flew off in one direction. As autumn arrived, the scorching heat between heaven and earth gradually dissipated. The influence of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure continued to increase, attracting more and more cultivators to head north in search of opportunities. Guan was not affected and continued to live his plain yet interesting life. Occasionally he would visit the Outer Gate City to chat with his friends about the various events stirred up by the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. One day, Yilan came to find Guan and also spoke about the Immortal Cultivation world. A faction of the Tianwei dynasty was flattened by overseas great cultivators, causing panic in the Immortal Cultivation world. Fortunately, our Supreme Sect is protected by Sword Venerable Fudao. Otherwise, those great cultivators from overseas wouldn't dare to act recklessly, Yilan said with concern. The battle took place at night and Guan had sensed it, but he didn't intervene. He had no relationship with Tianwei, so naturally he was too lazy to take action. Such calamities were not uncommon in the Immortal Cultivation world. The overseas great cultivators who intervened were only at the Mahayana realm, but they were enough to crush a great sect with 1,000,000 disciples. Guan reminded her, "Then you should go out less and stay in the sect to cultivate." Yilan nodded and said, "I'm now stationed at the law enforcement hall, doing idle tasks all day, and spending most of my time taking elixirs and absorbing energy." She was already 101 years old, and her maximum lifespan was only 130 years. Time was running out. Now, besides growing flowers and plants, Guan supervised her cultivation. Unlike Xiaochuan, Yilan was quite ambitious, so Guan was willing to help her. As they chatted, the topic shifted to Zhenqin. A few days ago, Zhenqin followed the elders and inheriting disciples to the demon clan's territory. It was said that the Supreme Sect had discovered a secret realm, a rare opportunity. That girl is bound to soar to great heights. She might even become a great cultivator of the Supreme Sect in the future. Imagine she used to come to the inner sect to find me, acting like a little girl, reckless in her actions and careless in her words. Yilan began reminiscing about decades ago. Guan listened attentively, and when she finished he teased, "What, are you jealous of her? Why don't I cultivate the defying fate divine skill and pass my cultivation level to you before I die?" Yilan gave him a sidelong glance and said, "I wouldn't want that. What's the point of living without you?" As they talked, the teacups on the table began to tremble and ripples appeared in the tea. Yilan noticed this and frowned. Soon even the ground began to shake, alarming all the cultivators in the city. Guan's gaze turned towards the depths of the continent to the desolate plains where a giant city was rising from the ground, occupying a 1,000-mile radius. Dust filled the sky, and the momentum was magnificent. Guan could sense the vast power contained within the city. It was a Dharma treasure, the strongest he had ever seen. He immediately thought of a name. Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. The restrictions contained in this treasure were not only advanced but also very complex. Guan even sensed the aura of karmic rules. A city that occupied a 1,000-mile radius was colossal, with walls 100 zhang tall, the city filled with buildings, palaces and towering spires. Despite its ancient and dilapidated appearance, the city had crossed the long river of time. With the arrival of this city, the great cultivators scattered across the continent all rushed towards it, including Qi Jiuxiao and Anhao. Even Li Ya and Zhang Buku joined the excitement. "I'm going out to take a look." Yilan said this and then leaped into the air, stepping on her flying sword as she left the residence. Guan picked up his teacup and continued drinking tea, watching the excitement. He saw numerous cultivators from the 7-star spirit realm enter the city, and once they did, their figures disappeared and their auras weakened. Guan, at the 9th level of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, could barely catch their auras. Even so, it was difficult for cultivators of lower realms. No matter how many cultivators flew into the city, it remained silent. No one was seen and no signs of life could be detected. The divine exotic city is open. All beings under the heavens can enter the city and find their immortal fate. A booming and ancient voice resounded throughout the heavens and earth, reaching every corner of the continent. Wandering immortal. Guan raised an eyebrow. The 6 stars cave only had one wandering immortal. Now, with the appearance of a second, had the death of the divine soul true lord been discovered? After a while Yilan flew back. The disturbance seems to be coming from afar. This divine exotic city sounds extraordinary. I really want to see it, Yilan said wistfully as she sat opposite Guan. Guan shook his head and said, "Such immortal fate is not something cultivators like us can reach." "I know. Don't worry. I won't go looking for death. With my cultivation level, I might die before even seeing the divine exotic city," Yilan said with a smile, shaking her head. Guan didn't comfort her. It was indeed the truth. About an hour later, Guan left under Yilan's urging. In the days that followed, various legends about the divine exotic city circulated within the supreme sect. Shenzhen especially visited Guan, bringing many tales of the divine exotic city. "I heard from a senior that the divine exotic city is an ancient immortal city, hidden and elusive. Each appearance can change the world. Our predecessors in the Daotian sect once excavated an ancient site and found an inscription mentioning the divine exotic city. It is a very ancient legend," Shenzhen said excitedly. Guan smiled and asked, "What, do you want to join the excitement?" He observed the divine exotic city every day, witnessing over 10,000 beings enter the city, but none had come out. Shenzhen nodded and said, "Yes, I'm planning to take a look. I want to enter the city, just watch the excitement from outside and draw the divine exotic city. Are you coming?" "There will be the vice sect leader and the supreme elders leading the way." Guan shook his head and said, "I'm not going. If there's an incident, dying there would be too worthless." "Nonsense. Are you cursing me?" Shenzhen glared at him. No matter how much she persuaded, Guan wouldn't go, so she had no choice but to give up. After Shenzhen left, Guan went downstairs to start picking medicinal herbs. At the same time, his divine sense saw Li Ya and Zhang Buku entering the divine exotic city. Another person was on the way to the divine exotic city. It was Ji Xiaoyu. Chapter 217. Have you read Journey to the West? The noise caused by the appearance of divine exotic city in a short period of time matched the past catastrophe of demons, with various legends about divine exotic city emerging and widely circulating in the immortal cultivation world and among the common people. Divine exotic city houses immortals. Divine exotic city has the elixir of immortality. Divine exotic city has a passage to an exotic world. And so on. These countless peculiar tales made Guan feel astonished. In the blink of an eye, more than half a year had passed. This year's spring festival was quieter than in previous years because many disciples of the Supreme Sect went out to seek opportunities. Fortunately, the Third Medicine Valley and Mystic Valley were not affected. Divine Exotic City still stood there, continuously attracting cultivators from all over the world to seek treasures. Even the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord, who was temporarily residing in the Supreme Sect, went there taking Chu Jingfeng with him. Up to now, it was only Herd who had gone to Divine Exotic City. No one had been heard to bring back any harvest from inside the city. In late spring, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to Tianya Valley. Li Xiandao was actually there as well. He had not returned to Tianya Valley for many years. Guan came to him and saluted, thanking him for the golden core he had given. It seems the Supreme Sect treats you well. Someone helped you form a core. I originally wanted to send someone to help you. Li Xiandao stroked his beard and smiled. In response, Guan could only express his gratitude without mentioning much about the Supreme Sect. After not seeing him for many years, Li Zuando's cultivation had reached the second level of the unification realm. He was only 314 years old, which was quite extraordinary. Guan suspected that he could reach the Mahayana realm before the age of 500. Considering only this continent, it was estimated that only in Hao and Xian Tiany's talents could compare with his, and his maximum lifespan was not less, exceeding 6,000 years. Achieving nirvana in this life would be no problem. Li Xiandao called over Ji Ruolai, Luo Hun and LV Xian, and they all sat down to chat. He mentioned Divine Exotic City and planned to take people to explore it. According to the information I received, Divine Exotic City is an immortal path supreme treasure, containing numerous minor heavens and earths with countless opportunities. Who among you wants to go? Li Xiandao asked. All three expressed their interest, and Li Xiandao then looked at Guan. Guan did not expect Li Xiandao to invite him and quickly shook his head and said, "I'll pass. Given my cultivation, I would only be a burden to you, and I am not interested in the so-called immortal opportunities. I am self-aware enough to know that such immortal opportunities are not something I can covet." Li Xiandao laughed and said, "I am also at the core formation realm. Do you mean I shouldn't go either? Pretending to be at core formation realm with the unification realm? Do you still have the nerve?" Guan helplessly said, "There is a difference even among those at the core formation realm. My strength is far inferior to yours." Li Xiandao raised his hand and pointed at him, did not insist and just smiled. LV Xian wanted to say that both of them should stop pretending, but he held back because he could not afford to offend either of them. They continued talking about Divine Exotic City, and Ji Ruolai began sharing the intelligence he had gathered about it, while Guan silently listened. It was said that even the seven-star spirit realm could not subdue Divine Exotic City. The immortal spirit of Divine Exotic City was hidden in the city and hard to find, so they had no choice but to release the city and let cultivators from all over the world come to find the immortal opportunities, thus forcing out the immortal spirit. Ji Ruolai received news from his family, saying that more overseas cultivators were on their way, which would inevitably affect the local immortal cultivation world. As the Holy Land, the seven-star spirit realm doesn't consider us at all, causing trouble for the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. LV Xian couldn't help but curse. Luo Hun nodded. He also disapproved of the seven-star spirit realm. During the great catastrophe of demons, the seven-star spirit realm did not intervene. After Sword Venerable Fudao exterminated the demon ancestor, they descended from the mountain to save the world and gain a good reputation. Now, how many years have passed since the great catastrophe of demons ended, and they provoked so many powerful overseas cultivators? Can such a force really be considered a holy land? Li Xiandao did not comment on the seven-star spirit realm, and Ji Ruolai was even more silent. Guan also wondered what the seven-star spirit realm intended to do. This was not just targeting the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. If all the overseas cultivators who came died, the impact would be massive. An hour later, Li Xiandao took Ji Ruolai, Luo Hun and LV Xian and set off. Meanwhile, Tianya Valley became lively. Three monkey demons found Guan and chattered non-stop, giving off the vibe of being the kings in a mountain without a tiger. The Blood Prison Great Saint also became talkative, quarreling fiercely with Sun San. After Guan finished picking medicinal herbs, He rode the blood prison Great Saint away leisurely, and Chenya Valley returned to silence. At dusk, Divine Exotic City stood tall on the wasteland, magnificent and grand. Quite a few cultivators and demons gathered in front of the 4 city gates, and some cultivators and demons directly flew into the city. The air above the city walls rippled, and then the entrance disappeared without a trace. 2 figures flew from the horizon. It was Jianghu and the ghost mother of Ephemera. As they looked from a distance, their eyes showed astonishment. Before coming, they had heard many legends about Divine Exotic City, but seeing it in person now, they felt the shock. Not only was it a visual impact, but an indescribable ancient aura also surged toward them. Divine Exotic City, it is said that obtaining it can summon divine soul demons to sweep across the heavens and earth. I never thought I would witness this legendary Immortal Path supreme treasure in my lifetime, the ghost mother of Ephemera marveled. Jianghu frowned and said, "Why can't I see anyone coming out?" The ghost mother of Ephemera replied, "There are countless minor heavens and earths inside Divine Exotic City. Without several years it's very difficult to come out." Jianghu fell silent, her beautiful eyes fixed on Divine Exotic City. At that moment, a loud bell suddenly roared, making everyone's divine soul tremble. Jianghu and the ghost mother of Ephemera instinctively turned their heads and saw a golden light flying from the horizon at high speed across the wasteland and entering Divine Exotic City, with no one seeing its true form. Jianghu asked in a low voice, "What realm is that passerby?" The ghost mother of Ephemera remained silent, unable to answer. Meanwhile, Guan, staying in the 3rd Medicine Valley, also stared at Divine Exotic City. Even the wandering immortals have come. Will heaven and earth flying immortals appear next? Guan stood by a wooden railing, looking at the horizon and silently thought. He originally wasn't interested in Divine Exotic City, but as more and more old acquaintances entered the city, he had to pay more attention. If something happened to Divine Exotic City, half of the people he cared about would die. Just thinking about it felt distressing. After watching for a while, he moved to check each garden area. Inside a broken and desolate city, and Hao and Qi Jiuxiao sat cross-legged in front of a collapsed wall, their faces pale and obviously injured. Roar! A thunderous roar echoed through the heavens and earth, causing the wall behind them to tremble slightly. And Hao opened his eyes and frowned, asking in a low voice, "Senior, is there really an immortal opportunity here? Should we try another place?" They were in a minor heaven and earth inside Divine Exotic City. After being here for several months, they had not found many treasures but often encountered demon beasts of the Immortal Path realm, facing life-threatening dangers. Even the powerful Qi Jiuxiao was injured. Qi Jiuxiao, with his eyes closed, said, "There are many powerful demon beasts here, indicating that this place must hide a supreme treasure. The desolation is only on the surface. If we can find the immortal spirit of Divine Exotic City, you and I will soar to the skies and become one of the dominions of heaven and earth." And Hao smiled bitterly, "Even if we find the immortal spirit, can we protect Divine Exotic City with our cultivation?" He admitted that Qi Jiuxiao was strong, but ever since they paired up, he often saw Qi Jiuxiao in difficult situations. Although Qi Jiuxiao claimed those opponents were in the loose immortal realm, it at least proved that within Divine Exotic City, he hadn't reached the top tier. How could he compete for the immortal spirit with such strength? The immortal spirit will choose its master. Once chosen, it can borrow the power of Divine Exotic City. Even you could possess the power of the Immortal Path realm. With the protection of Divine Exotic City's power, you and I will rise eventually, Qi Jiuxiao said nonchalantly. Upon hearing this, and Hao's eyes lit up. He was about to speak when suddenly the city shook more violently. Qi Jiuxiao instantly appeared before him, grabbing him before vanishing from the spot. Rumble, streets collapsed and dust rolled up, wanting to envelop the skies. Qi Jiuxiao and Hao reappeared in the air. Looking closely, the world was submerged in rolling dust waves, and the dilapidated city below seemed in danger of being swallowed at any moment. "Qi Jiuxiao, long time no see." An eerie voice rang out. Upon hearing this, Qi Jiuxiao's brows furrowed, and he said in a deep voice, "Qin Xuanin, you indeed came." As the words fell, the dust waves ahead suddenly parted, and figures emerged from it. Leading the group was a man in blue robes, graceful and proud. "Do you dare to come alone to our 6 Stars Caves territory? Do you seek death?" Qin Xuanin stared at Qi Jiuxiao, a cold smile on his face. Qi Jiuxiao gripped in Hao's shoulder with his right hand, and in his left hand he condensed the dragon-slaying spear. He pointed the spear at Qin Xuanin and sneered, "What? Do you think you can defeat me with a few helpers? Have you forgotten the cowardly look when you knelt before me 100 years ago?" Upon hearing this, Qin Zunyan's eyes turned cold. With a roar, the dust waves behind them dispersed, revealing a terrifying giant demon. It was an elephant demon with a head as huge as a mountain, black skin, blood-red eyes, and scars covering its trunk. Its two tusks were like mountain ridges dispersing the dust waves below. Meanwhile, in another minor heaven and earth within Divine Exotic City, under the clear sky, Zhang Buku and Li Ye walked through a vast monastery. Along the way there were numerous Buddha statues. Some stood on demon beasts, looking heroic, while others sat on lotus seats, appearing kind and merciful. "Brother Li, have you read Journey to the West?" Zhang Buku suddenly asked. Li Ye, walking in front, hummed, "When do I have time to read leisure books?" His gaze swept forward, his brows furrowed. Since coming here, he had felt uneasy as if someone hidden was watching them, making him very uncomfortable. "Let me tell you, Journey to the West involves the Buddhism sect, and the Buddha is very powerful. Even the great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong, couldn't escape the five-finger mountain of the Buddha." Zhang Buku began introducing Journey to the West. He didn't actually want to talk about Journey to the West. His senses were sharper than Li Ya's, and since stepping into this monastery he felt danger. Strangely, they had walked around several times and couldn't find an exit. The two had a tacit understanding. Neither pointed out this fact and continued to stroll, their minds on high alert. Tap, tap, tap. A stone suddenly fell from the courtyard wall, startling Zhang Buku, who turned to see the stone rolling on the path behind, with no figures of people or demons on the walls around. He released his divine sense, but also failed to detect anything unusual. He turned back, about to say something, and in the next moment, his eyes widened. The space in front of him was empty. Li Ye had vanished. Chapter 218. My master is definitely more powerful than yours. After Li Ye disappeared, Zhang Buku immediately panicked. He flew into the air, and from above, the vast monastery stretched out endlessly. The interconnected courtyard seemed endless, dizzying to behold. He scanned the area but could not find any trace of Li Ye. It wasn't just Li Ye. He couldn't see a single living creature. Thoroughly alarmed, he began to fly around, searching for Li Ye. "Brother Li." He called out loudly, but unfortunately there was no response. The eeriness and horror intensified, making him feel that danger was approaching. No matter where he flew, he saw no human figures or traces. Gradually, he felt that the courtyards he passed by became increasingly repetitive, causing his consciousness to blur. He did not know how long had passed before he gradually descended into a courtyard. The world spun. His eyelids grew heavy. This feeling made Zhang Buku extremely uncomfortable. He half knelt on the ground, supporting himself with his hands, feeling on the verge of fainting. "Damn it. I can't fall here." Zhang Buku struggled to maintain his last shred of rationality. He vaguely heard footsteps approaching from nearby. He turned his head with difficulty and saw a blurred, overlapping figure approaching. It seemed to be an old monk in a cassock. The old monk crouched down in front of him. Before Zhang Buku could see the monk's face, he saw the monk's hands, bony and gaunt, like a pair of ghostly claws with very long nails. These hands alarmed Zhang Buku and instinctively filled him with fear. A faint chirping sound came from afar, making him feel dazed as if he had heard this sound somewhere before. The old monk beside him stood up and turned to look, his body trembling, seemingly chastising something. Suddenly, the old monk's figure vanished into thin air, and he felt something land on his shoulder. His consciousness quickly cleared, and the world in his eyes returned to normal, no longer shaking. Once he was fully awake, he quickly stood up and turned his head to see a sparrow perched on his shoulder. "It's you!" Zhang Buku exclaimed with joy. It was this sparrow that had led him to the cave back then, where he obtained the demon core and learned the axe technique. He would never forget this sparrow. He instinctively wanted to grab the sparrow, but it suddenly flew away, landing on the courtyard wall, chirping non-stop. Zhang Buku couldn't understand it, but seeing the sparrow tilting its head, he immediately understood and followed the sparrow. The sparrow flapped its wings and flew away, and Zhang Buku hurriedly chased after it. After a while, the sparrow landed on a stone statue along the courtyard path. As Zhang Buku approached, he was astonished to find that the face of the statue was Li Ya's face. The statue's body was a Buddha statue, wearing a cassock with Li Ya's face on it, making Zhang Buku feel very uneasy. He began to call out to Li Ya, but unfortunately received no response. Guan, in the form of a sparrow, looked at Zhang Buku and sighed inwardly. This kid's physique and cultivation were good, but his divine sense was lacking and needed more practice. Guan flapped his wings, continuously pecking at Li Ya's statue, guiding Zhang Buku. Zhang Buku took the hint and pushed the statue, but nothing happened. Guan landed on the statue's head, using his beak to peck at the statue's face, then looked up at Zhang Buku. "I understand. Move aside." Zhang Buku stepped aside and said in a deep voice. Guan immediately flew away. Zhang Buku swung his fist and smashed the statue's head with a punch. Rumbling, the ground shook violently, spatial ripples appeared in the sky above the monastery, revealing various colors. Soon after, blood-red lights appeared, quickly replacing the clear sky. In less than 3 breaths' time, the monastery was under a night of blood, terrifying and horrifying. Zhang Buku stared ahead and found that all the stone statues had turned into white bones, hideous and terrifying. He leaped into the air. From above, the once boundless monastery now covered a mere 100 zhang area. In front of one temple, Liya was tied to an old tree, a ghostly claw covering his mouth and a ghostly hand pressing on his chest, preventing him from breaking free. These 2 ghostly hands' arms extended behind the tree, making one wonder how terrifying their owner was. "Brother Li!" Zhang Buku roared in anger, leaping with a stone axe in hand. Just as he flew into the courtyard, the temple door suddenly opened. "I didn't expect you to see through my formation. Remarkable young human." A hoarse voice came from the darkness behind the door. Then an old monk in a cassock walked out. His figure was gaunt, his skin dark and covered in corpse spots, and his pupils had lost all color, pale to the extreme. Zhang Buku said nothing and swung his axe, cutting through the mountain. With one swing, the sky and earth trembled. The old monk vanished from his spot, and the temple was split in 2 with the connecting walls shattered, the cut extending outside the monastery. Guan, in the form of a sparrow, landed on a distant eaves, watching the battle unfold. Zhang Buku was no match for the old monk, but Guan could assist with his divine sense. The battle erupted in full scale. The monastery soon turned into a flat field, more and more evil ghosts emerging from the ground and rushing toward Zhang Buku. Zhang Buku was deeply surrounded, fighting more and more valiantly. "Oh, show yourself!" The old monk suddenly shouted in anger. Whenever he was about to kill Zhang Buku, a powerful divine sense would strike him, throwing his divine soul into chaos and making him lose focus. No one answered him, and Zhang Buku was killing with red eyes. Guan multitasked, using divine sense to help Zhang Buku while observing the minor heaven and earth within Divine Exotic City. The powerful restrictions of Divine Exotic City could not stop his limitless freedom step. As long as he locked onto the auras of Zhang Buku and Liya, he could step in instantly. Now he could enter and exit Divine Exotic City freely, utterly unhindered. Entering Divine Exotic City revealed its vastness. The city's minor heaven and earth numbered at least 1,000. Some minor heaven and earth were larger than the entire Taizong dynasty. Combined, the internal space of Divine Exotic City was likely wider than the entire continent. Guan saw Qi Jiuxiao and Hao being pursued, the pursuers likely from the 7-star spirit realm, led by a loose immortal. He also saw the 9-fingered Divine Lord single-handedly facing endless divine and ghostly armies in a heaven and was constantly using divine skills, domineering and unrivaled. Guan tried to kill an evil ghost nearby but gained no lifespan from it. He instantly abandoned the idea of venturing through Divine Exotic City. These evil ghosts seemed to be from a single power, a power even Guan could not fathom. The being who created Divine Exotic City must have a realm far beyond the heaven and earth flying immortal. Time flew by quickly. An hour later, Zhang Buku finally managed to kill the old monk, though it was Guan's mana that had initially eliminated him, with Zhang Buku's axe energy following closely. Killing the old monk did not grant Guan any lifespan either. Zhang Buku landed, gasping heavily. He reached the old tree and cut off the ghostly hands, causing Liya to fall, whom he caught. He subconsciously looked back but saw no trace of the sparrow. He couldn't care much about that and focused on attending to Liya. Brotherly. Zhang Buku whispered, using his spiritual power to heal Liya's wounds. At the same time, Guan had already returned to Mystic Valley. To Zhang Buku and Liya, Divine Exotic City was incredibly far from the Supreme Sect, but to Guan, it was just a step away. He approached the pill furnace in his room, preparing for alchemy. Not only Li Ya and Jianghu encountered troubles today, but several other old friends did as well, so Guan decided to stay in Mystic Valley and wait. Divine Exotic City Immortal Spirit. Guan seemed to catch something just now. He stood before the pill furnace, pondering while beginning to place herbs into the furnace. In the dark hall passage, and Hao and Qi Jiuxiao were walking quickly. Qi Jiuxiao suddenly stopped, leaning against the wall, and whispered, "We can stop now." And Hao looked around and asked, "Where is this place?" They had just flown out of a minor heaven and earth and ended up in this hall passage. After walking for a long time, passing numerous intersections, they had lost their way. They couldn't forcibly break through the walls or even penetrate them with their divine sense, making Hao very nervous. Qi Jiuxiao sat down, placing a small cauldron in front of him, then inserted 2 incense sticks. Watching him light the incense, and Hao frowned and asked, "What are you doing?" Black blood seeped from Qi Jiuxiao's mouth. He forced a smile and said, "Those scum from 7-Star Spirit Realm dared to hire 2 loose immortals to deal with me. I indeed couldn't defeat them, but since Qin Xuanin can call for help, so can I." And Hao widened his eyes and quickly asked, "Aren't you from overseas? Who can you call?" My master is a being surpassing loose immortals. Once I light this incense, he will sense it and come to rescue us quickly." Qi Jiuxiao grinned. "Surpassing loose immortals." And Hao was stunned. He sat down and said, "Since you're calling your master, I'll call mine as well." He began calling his master in his mind. Previously he had managed to call his master through his thoughts. But he was unsure. Last time he wanted his master to save Shen Tianyi, and his master didn't come right away, though he did act later. He wasn't sure under what circumstances his master would act. Your master? Forget it. What formidable cultivator could the Supreme Sect have? Qi Jiuxiao couldn't help but laugh. And Hao said, "My master is definitely stronger than yours. Kid, don't disrespect my master." Qi Jiuxiao glared at him. And Hao was about to say that Qi Jiuxiao had also disrespected his master. Suddenly the hall passage began to tremble, and a powerful killing intent attacked from the darkness. Damn it! They caught up so fast. Qi Jiuxiao immediately stood up, grabbed the small cauldron with the incense, and pulled Hao along, flying quickly. Though strong at the 9th layer of Nirvana realm, he couldn't break through the walls or ceiling, so he could only fly close to the ground. "Qi Jiuxiao, you can't escape." Qin Zunyan's voice came from behind, filled with frenzied excitement. At the same time, outside Divine Exotic City, LV Badian and a group of Supreme Sect cultivators watched the city gate, discussing their plans after entering the city. Suddenly, a terrifying aura came from afar, startling everyone outside the city to turn and look. They could only see a streak of light breaking through the sky, disappearing into Divine Exotic City in the blink of an eye, swift as lightning, and couldn't see what was within the light. Chapter 219 Master. Qi Jiuxiao took Hao and fled quickly, passing dozens of intersections. They suddenly flew into a vast palace whose length and width were difficult to estimate. The palace was dimly lit, with rows of stone pillars, most of which had extinguished oil lamps hanging on them. As soon as Hao entered the palace, he felt a cold wind blowing towards him, making him shiver uncontrollably. Before he could think more, a terrible killing intent came from behind. A dark red long scarf flew out from the darkness, swiftly passing by the two and circling in front, trying to entangle them. Qi Jiuxiao took out the dragon-slaying spear and threw it forward. A dragon's roar exploded, and a golden dragon condensed, illuminating the whole palace with golden light. The golden dragon formed by the dragon-slaying spear fiercely collided with the dark red scarf, stirring up strong winds that ravaged the palace space. And Hao only felt himself about to be swept away. Fortunately, Qi Jiuxiao was holding him, but even so he was still very uncomfortable. Qi Jiuxiao leaped up, his toes stepping on the dragon-slaying spear. He flipped into the air, jumping over the dark red scarf, and then turned to look below. The dark red scarf was like a red river plunging into the darkness, with no end in sight. Figures attacked from all directions, quickly surrounding them. Qin Xuanin flew from the front, landing less than 30 feet from the two, and said with a sneer, "Qi Jiuxiao, where do you think you're going?" Qi Jiuxiao put down Hao and coldly said, "Want to kill me? Fine, let this kid go first." And Hao was urgent, just about to speak, but was stopped by Qi Jiuxiao raising his hand. Qin Xuanin laughed dismissively, Do you think you're in any position to negotiate with me right now? As he finished speaking, a figure appeared beside him. It was an old man in white with a cold face holding a jade lamp. Qi Jiuxiao slightly turned his head, glancing back. Another loose immortal had already appeared behind him. Master, and Hao whispered through clenched teeth. Qi Jiuxiao heard his words and smiled. And Hao, it seems your master cannot hear your call. But my master is coming soon. Qi Jiuxiao said softly with a smile. With these words, the faces of the 7-star spirit realm cultivators slightly changed. The old man in white beside Qi Jiuxiao instinctively turned around to look. You bully my disciple, does Divine Soul True Lord agree? A cold voice echoed through the palace, the killing intent in the tone making everyone feel as if they were in an ice cellar. Qi Jiuxiao's face once again showed an unruly and wild smile, looking at Qin Xuanin as if he were prey. The autumn wind blew, lifting the fallen leaves off the ground and gently putting them down again. Guwen was sweeping the ground, and the blood prison great saint beside him curiously asked, Master, there are so many disciples in the valley, why do you sweep the ground yourself? Not only Guwen but other disciples were also sweeping the ground in the third Medicine Valley. However, compared to the vast Medicine Valley, the hundreds of people seemed sparse. It's sometimes good to sweep the ground. Feeling the earth with your hands and feet might lead to some insights. Guwen casually replied. He sounded very perfunctory, but his words fell on the ears of the blood prison great saint and seemed very reasonable. The blood prison great saint began to walk back and forth, feeling the earth and nature. Guwen looked toward the direction of Divine Exotic City, where 4 wandering immortals had gathered, 2 from the 7-star spirit realm, one was Qi Jiuxiao's master, and another was Nine-Fingered Divine Lord. Nine-Fingered Divine Lord was leading Chu Jingfeng to search for immortal spirit, while the other 3 wandering immortals were engaged in chaotic battles. Qi Jiuxiao's master had killed 2 loose immortals and more than a dozen 7-star spirit realm disciples, attracting 2 wandering immortals. The situation was not good, as Qi Jiuxiao's master had already fallen into a disadvantage. Guwen was not in a hurry to take action, first letting Qi Jiuxiao's master fight for a while longer. He had to sweep this area clean. After a while, Guwen looked towards the west. Another wandering immortal had arrived. It's really lively. Guwen thought to himself, feeling a bit worried. The increasing presence of immortal path beings on this continent could easily bring catastrophe to the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. He just hoped this matter would end soon. In a minor heaven and earth within Divine Exotic City, yellow sand covered the sky and the wind raged wildly. On the desert, an house stood in front of Qi Jiuxiao, with a faint golden light around them, blocking the wind and sand. Qi Jiuxiao was sitting and healing his wounds, looking ahead. Booming sounds kept coming with heat waves, flying leaves and gold flames entangled and surging. In the distance, mana rainbows flashed brilliantly, shaking the heavens and the earth. The battle of wandering immortals, how terrifying! And how could not see the figures of the 3 wandering immortals? Even with the protection of the formation, he felt his body might turn to dust at any moment, which was an unbearably uncomfortable feeling. Qi Jiuxiao could barely see the wandering immortals battle, and because of that, his face looked even gloomier. His most respected master had already fallen into disadvantage. He realized that doom was inevitable. This time he had also implicated in Hao and his master, which made his fists clench tightly. Damn it! Qi Jiuxiao realized for the first time the power of 7-star spirit realm. Before, he had mainly been active within the territory governed by Star Sea congregations. Even when encountering 7-star spirit realm cultivators, he rarely suffered losses. Now, coming to the territory of 7-star spirit realm, he recognized that those people feared not him, but the Star Sea congregations. And Hao turned back and asked nervously, Senior, what is the situation now? Qi Jiuxiao was silent, not answering, just staring ahead. Seeing his face darken to the point of dripping water, and Hao knew the situation was bad, making him even more anxious. Qi Bei, today your disciple must die. If you insist on living and dying with him, then prepare to vanish. A majestic voice rang out, followed by the sound of a zither, causing Hao inside the formation to feel dizzy, with everything in his field of vision shaking. Qi Jiuxiao took a deep breath, then stood up. Senior, what are you going to do? And Hao frowned and asked. Qi Jiuxiao did not answer but shouted loudly, I take full responsibility for my actions. This matter started because of me. Let my master go. I am willing to die to atone. Humph, it's not up to you to talk here. An old voice echoed, filled with displeasure. Master, shut up. With a loud and violent shout, the desert rolled and black lightning bolts extended from the horizon, as if tearing the sky apart. The battle became more intense. The formation protecting Jianghu and the others was also shaking violently, causing Jianghu to sway. He looked nervously ahead and suddenly saw a figure walking through the wind and sand. Immortal swallowing scorpion. You are truly vicious. Does 7-star spirit realm really belong to the righteous path? An old voice rang out again, filled with anger. What is righteous and what is demonic? Can you star sea congregations really distinguish? Another voice replied, filled with disdain. Qi Jiuxiao panicked and quickly shouted, Let my master go. I'm willing to die. His gaze instinctively turned to the figure walking through the sandstorm ahead. That figure stepped out of the sandstorm, revealing its true form. A man wearing purple robes with white hair, a youthful face and eyes as cold as serpents. He looked at Qi Jiuxiao and coldly said, Whether you are willing or not, you must die and your master must also die now. You? Qi Jiuxiao was furious, wishing he could rush out and fight the man in purple robes for 300 rounds. But he remained rational, knowing he was no match for his opponent. If he went out, he probably wouldn't withstand even one move, and would only distract his master. Boom. The rolling yellow sand behind the man in purple robes was suddenly scattered. An old man with torn robes and a face covered in blood flew, stepping on a golden ring. Before he could get close to the man in purple robes, a terrifying giant scorpion pincer swept in from the side, directly catching him and pulling him back, disappearing into the sandstorm. Master! Qi Jiuxiao shouted hoarsely. The man in purple robes raised his right hand, igniting a strange white flame in his palm. He looked at Qi Jiuxiao and Jianghu with a mocking smile. He approached the formation step by step, the wind and sand behind him swirling madly, with waves of qi created by mana soaring like dragons, creating a spectacular scene. Just wait for death. Soon your master will come down to join you. The man in purple robes said coldly. As he finished speaking, he was already less than 10 steps away from the formation. He deliberately approached slowly, tormenting Qi Jiuxiao and Jianghu's minds while trying to distract Qi Bei. Jianghu looked at him and couldn't help but recall the scene when Shen Tianyi was held back by mysterious cultivators. Just like last time, he was still utterly useless, weak enough to hate himself. He gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and couldn't help shouting out loudly, Master! He screamed with all his might, his voice echoing inside the minor heaven and earth. Master? What? You also have a master? Can your master compare to Mahayana? The man in purple robes laughed with more disdain. Before he finished his sentence, a hand suddenly pressed on his shoulder, forcibly stopping him. Qi Jiuxiao's pupils dilated, staring in shock at the figure behind the man in purple robes. The man in purple robes instinctively tried to use divine skills to dodge. He was horrified to find that the mana in his body was solidified and immovable. He tried to use his own qi to break free, but the hand on his shoulder was as heavy as the heaviest mountain in the world, pressing down on him. The more he struggled, the greater the pressure felt. Do you think I have the cultivation level of the Mahayana realm? A cold voice came from behind the man in purple robes. And Jianghu heard it too and opened his eyes to see. When he saw the scene outside the formation, he was instantly overjoyed. Master! You finally came. And Jianghu looked at Guwen with surging emotions, his eyes quickly turning red. Guwen, who had displayed the 9 extreme yin-yang body, ignored Jianghu. He was standing sideways, his left hand pressing on the shoulder of the man in purple robes with a casual posture, yet the man in purple robes couldn't move. Who are you? Another voice rang out, filled with fear. As he finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared behind Guwen. It was a man in red robes, dressed extravagantly, exuding powerful energy, holding a short sword and stabbing towards Guwen's lower back. Guwen, holding the shoulder of the man in purple robes, vanished into thin air, causing the man in red robes to miss. Before the man in red robes could turn around, he felt an unimaginable force hitting his back. His body uncontrollably fell to his knees on the sand, and then a foot stepped on his back, pushing his spine down. Guwen, with his left hand pressing on the shoulder of the man in purple robes and his right foot stomping on the back of the man in red robes, Su. Chapter 220. The legendary Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal. Seeing Guwen's fierce suppression of the 2 wandering immortals, Qi Jiuxiao was dumbfounded, while Anhao trembled with excitement. Guan glanced at the purple-robed man in his hand and cast a lifespan detection. 9 stars True Lord, 5th layer of Wandering Immortal Realm 42089/15000/160000. He then looked at the red-robed man at his feet and performed the lifespan detection as well. True Lord Kangyi, 6th layer of Wandering Immortal Realm 56803/16000/1900000. Both are quite old. They all call themselves True Lords. Could it be that True Lord is a title in the 7-star spirit realm? As Guan was pondering, True Lord Kangyi at his feet struggled to speak. Who might you be, sir? If that boy is indeed your disciple, take him away. Boom. The whirlwind behind Guan suddenly exploded, darkening Anhao and Qi Jiuxiao's vision. A massive black scorpion, as large as a giant mountain, attacked, its pincers clamping towards Guan. Immortal swallowing scorpion. Its speed was insanely fast, so fast that Qi Jiuxiao and Anhao couldn't react in time. They only saw the immortal swallowing scorpion attack suddenly, and before they could see it clearly, it exploded. Black venom splattered everywhere, followed by an even more terrifying roar. Rumble, a vast cloud of dust rose behind Guan, covering the sky with black venom. Impossible! The 9 stars True Lord, held by Guan, had his eyes wide open in disbelief. That immortal swallowing scorpion was also in the Wandering Immortal Realm, yet it died instantly? He didn't even see what method Guan used, feeling that as soon as the scorpion's pincers touched Guan, its body exploded. You successfully seized 57,009 years of life span from the immortal swallowing scorpion, 2nd level of Traveling Immortal Realm. Seeing the notification, Guan felt slightly satisfied. The immortal swallowing scorpion died under the Taoist Gang primal energy, which was manifested by the Ji family's divine skill Heaven and Earth Path Gang. Whenever someone attacked Guan's body, this divine skill would trigger, killing the attacker. True Lord Kangyi could neither extend his divine sense nor turn his head, but he felt as if he would be annihilated the moment the Taoist Gang primal energy exploded. He had never felt so desperate. The opponent had definitely surpassed the Wandering Immortal Realm. How could such a being exist on this backward continent? The 9 stars True Lord, witnessing the explosion of the Taoist Gang primal energy, was even more terrified. At this moment, the 2 wandering immortals lost all will to fight, feeling only endless fear. The longer they lived, the more they feared death. Senior, give, True Lord Kangyi said, trembling. Although Guan did not receive any hostility prompt, True Lord Kangyi dared to let the immortal swallowing scorpion attack him, truly courting death. Guan suddenly exerted force with his right foot, directly crushing True Lord Kangyi's body into blood mist, leaving only a storage bag. The 9 stars True Lord's eyes widened in despair. From Guan's palm, the breaking path divine light burst forth, instantly reducing him to dust, leaving no trace behind. The storage bag of the 9 stars True Lord also fell to the ground. The 2 wandering immortals died without any resistance. Anhao and Qi Jiuxiao were stunned. They knew how powerful these 2 wandering immortals were, which made them even more bewildered. 2 notifications popped up before Guan. He successfully seized 20,000 years of life span. A figure flew over and landed behind Guan, bowing and cupping his fists. Thank you, Senior, for saving me. It was Qi Jiuxiao's master, Qi Bei. Qi Bei looked extremely miserable, his body oozing black blood. Don't reveal this to anyone or you'll become my enemy. Guan warned before disappearing into thin air, taking the 2 storage bags with him. Qi Bei looked up, but his divine sense could no longer detect Guan, making him sigh. At this moment, Qi Jiuxiao rushed out of the formation, supporting Qi Bei. Master, are you okay? Qi Jiuxiao asked anxiously. Qi Bei struggled to speak. Bring out the medicine cauldron, I need to expel the poison. Qi Jiuxiao hurried to comply. Soon, Qi Bei entered the cauldron to heal, taking out his prepared medicinal herbs and spirit water. Anhao approached the great cauldron and cautiously asked, What's the origin of the immortal swallowing scorpion? Qi Jiuxiao, staring at the great cauldron, said solemnly, The immortal swallowing scorpion is one of the 9 ancient deadly poisons of the ocean and the most powerful venomous insect alive today. If an immortal is swallowed by it, they instantly turn into toxic blood. Stung by it, their cultivation dissipates and gods and Buddhas cannot save them. So terrifying? Anhao was startled, not knowing how to comfort Qi Jiuxiao. Qi Jiuxiao turned to him and asked, Who exactly is your master? It's simply, Gu An's earlier performance was terrifying. Even though Qi Jiuxiao was saved, he feared Gu An's power. It was a fear born from something beyond his comprehension. I can't reveal my master's name, he forbids it. And Hao shook his head, feeling proud inside. Whenever he encountered a higher realm existence, he would wonder what realm his master had reached. However, his master kept breaking his understanding time and time again. No matter how powerful an entity appeared before his master, they were but ants. He realized that although he was extremely talented compared to his master, he wasn't worth mentioning. He even suspected that his own talents were due to his master's favor. Qi Jiuxiao fell silent after hearing this. He recalled Gu An's previous demeanor, eyes showing admiration. A true man cultivating the immortal path should have such a presence. Elsewhere, Gu An did not return to the supreme sect but instead arrived at an isolated island on the sea with one step. He appeared in the forest, quickly sorting through the storage bags of the two true lords, destroying suspicious items, and throwing the treasures into his own storage bag. As his storage bag wasn't enough to hold the inheritance of these two, he had to refine one of their storage bags. After a while he finally left. He entered his own grotto heaven with one step, emptied everything out, and burned the 9 stars true lord's storage bag to ashes. Although he checked and found nothing wrong, he still wanted to be cautious. After doing all this, he returned to the supreme sect. He stood on the mountaintop next to the mystic valley, gazing into the distance. Although it was easy to kill 3 wandering immortals, he wasn't at peace. He knew things were about to escalate. But he didn't regret it. He couldn't let the enemies survive. There was another way. He also wanted to find the immortal spirit of the divine exotic city and give it to someone to end this conflict prematurely. Gu An had no interest in divine exotic city despite its power because its karma was too great. He didn't want any trouble. Giving it to someone else to follow the Star Sea congregations away would be the best result. He had visited divine exotic city twice and vaguely tracked the immortal spirit's whereabouts. Several days later, within the minor heaven and earth of divine exotic city, the wind and sand had ceased. Qi Jiuxiao helped Qi Bei, who had just emerged from the cauldron, to sit down. Qi Bei, now dressed in a clean white robe, had a pale face and disheveled hair, lacking any wandering immortal demeanor. Sitting down, he sighed, I didn't expect divine exotic city to attract a heaven and earth flying immortal. And Hao's face showed curiosity upon hearing this. Heaven and earth flying immortal? Is it the legendary realm capable of traveling beyond the heavens? Qi Jiuxiao's eyes brightened with excitement. Qi Bei nodded, it must be. Being in the same realm, he couldn't have possibly defeated those 2 true lords so easily. He looked at Qi Jiuxiao and said, Senior saved us, so we must keep our promise and not speak of his intervention. Just say it was cultivators from the Star Sea congregations, got it? Qi Jiuxiao nodded heavily. Qi Bei then looked at An Hao, scrutinizing him. He could see that An Hao had extraordinary roots and asked, Is your master also from the supreme sect? He could see the karma surrounding An Hao but could only see the past 10 years, not the interactions between An Hao and his master. As for LV Badian, he was quickly dismissed. A mere unification realm was not worth his attention. I'm not sure, he probably isn't. An Hao shook his head, keeping a cautious mind and not fully trusting Qi Bei. Qi Bei smiled, You're very fortunate, young man. With such a master, your future is limitless. How about joining the Star Sea congregations later? An Hao hesitated, I don't have just one master. My other master is the sect leader of the supreme sect, and I have to take on the responsibility of strengthening my sect. Qi Bei's smile grew even more gentle. It's not about leaving the supreme sect. You can train with the Star Sea congregations for a while and help establish good relations between the 2 sections. The Star Sea congregations can help you grow strong quickly. Once you're powerful enough, you'll better protect the supreme sect. In the future, if the Star Sea congregations face difficulties, you can offer your help. Hearing this, An Hao found it hard to refuse and looked towards Qi Jiuxiao. Qi Jiuxiao snorted, Is my master going to deceive you? Shen Tianyi is the best example. Traveling together all this way, he had learned about the relationship between Shen Tianyi and An Hao. He also wanted to win An Hao over. Winning over An Hao meant winning over the heaven and earth flying immortal from a few days ago. A heaven and earth flying immortal. The Star Sea congregations had produced such beings, but those were legends and he had never seen one with his own eyes. An Hao hesitated for a while but finally nodded in agreement, bringing smiles to Qi Bei and Qi Jiuxiao. Qi Bei's smile faded as he said, I haven't completely expelled the immortal swallowing scorpion's toxin. Let's leave Divine Exotic City to avoid the 7 Stars Spirit Realm's pursuit. But Divine Exotic City? Qi Jiuxiao hesitated. Qi Bei glared at him angrily. There is a heaven and earth flying immortal in Divine Exotic City, along with other wandering immortal presences. Do you think you have the qualifications to compete for the immortal spirit? Qi Jiuxiao immediately backed down, scratching his head with an awkward smile, not daring to insist further. And Hao felt some regret, but leaving now wouldn't be a loss. He had found many treasures alongside Qi Jiuxiao and had gained a lot. So, the 3 of them packed up and began to search for a way out. In a dark hall, one side of the wall was adorned with a row of brass oil lamps, some of which had already gone out. In front of the lamp wall stood a woman in a purple dress with a veil, her long hair coiled into a bun. Her revealed eyebrows were delicate, but the coldness in her eyes added a sense of mystery to her aura. A boy dressed in a sleeveless top appeared on her shoulder, tilting his head and asking, "Mother, what are you looking at?" Upon closer inspection, the boy's feet were embedded in the shoulder. Chapter 221. Immortal Spirit, I want it. Mother is seeing who has fallen again. The woman in the purple dress spoke slowly, her voice ethereal, echoing in the hall like the sound of spring water flowing through a mountain stream. The boy on her shoulder asked confusedly, "What is there to see? People die all the time, don't they? As long as less than half of the lamps on this wall are extinguished, the fortune of the 7-star spirit realm won't be severed." The woman in the purple dress replied, 3 wandering immortals have died recently, all from the same place. This place is close to the Star Sea congregations. I don't know if it's their plot or if someone else is causing trouble in the dark. The boy followed her gaze to the oil lamps on the wall and began to ponder. At this moment, footsteps echoed from the darkness behind, and an old voice said, "Cave Master, the spirit mirror is showing divine sense fluctuations." When the woman in the purple dress heard this, she turned and walked into the darkness. The boy on her shoulder turned his head to look, his clear eyes drawn to the oil lamps on the wall. Under the night sky in a dilapidated city, the 9-fingered Divine Lord sat meditating in front of a fire, with Chu Jingfeng sitting next to him. Chu Jingfeng occasionally glanced into the distance. Beneath the moonlight, dense fog surged, vaguely revealing terrifying ghostly shadows. "Can you feel it?" the 9-fingered Divine Lord suddenly asked. Chu Jingfeng's thoughts were pulled back and he cautiously asked, "Master, feel what?" The 9-fingered Divine Lord whispered, "It is approaching." "Who is it?" "The immortal spirit of Divine Exotic City." Chu Jingfeng's eyes widened and his breath quickened. Since coming to Divine Exotic City, he had learned about the immortal spirit from the 9-fingered Divine Lord. As long as the immortal spirit accepted a master, one could control the great power of Divine Exotic City. The immortal spirit's choice of master was not solely based on cultivation level. It might also depend on fate, which was why so many non-immortal path realm beings came to adventure here. Chu Jingfeng did not dare to hope that he could obtain Divine Exotic City, but he hoped his master could. The stronger his master became, the more benefits he would get. Moreover, from the bottom of his heart, he was grateful to the 9-fingered Divine Lord. It was the 9-fingered Divine Lord who had given him a chance to be reborn. The 9-fingered Divine Lord stopped speaking and continued absorbing energy. Chu Jingfeng then began to imagine what might happen next. After entering the city with the 9-fingered Divine Lord, he had witnessed many battles. No matter how strong the demons and ghosts were, they were no match for his master. He believed that as soon as the immortal spirit appeared, his master would inevitably control it and thus dominate Divine Exotic City. The moon set and the sun rose. The sun rose in the east outside the city. Chu Jingfeng was practicing qi absorption cultivation when he suddenly felt the ground tremble. He opened his eyes to find the surrounding buildings shaking. The 9-fingered Divine Lord, who was sitting opposite him, slowly stood up. Before Chu Jingfeng could ask, the 9-fingered Divine Lord raised his hand, and both of them soared into the sky. Chu Jingfeng looked down and his eyes widened in fear. He saw endless demons and ghosts appearing in all directions, surging like black waves, engulfing the city's buildings and stimulating his eyes. This is the true power of Divine Exotic City, the Divine Soul Demons. Over countless years, an endless number of Divine Soul Demons have accumulated here. This is a force that can overthrow the mortal world. The 9-fingered Divine Lord spoke indifferently, looking into the distance. Before Chu Jingfeng could respond, the nine-fingered Divine Lord raised his right hand and pressed down. Boom! The city below instantly collapsed and countless divine soul demons dissipated into ghostly mist. It seemed as if the entire earth was collapsing with dust flying up, turning the sky and ground murky. Chu Jingfeng vaguely heard a child's playful laughter, like a ghost, giving him goosebumps. Divine Exotic City, East Gate. The gate stood open and from outside the streets inside appeared empty. Suddenly the space inside the gate rippled, and 3 people emerged, Qi Bei, Qi Jiuxiao and An Hao. The 3 of them walked 10 steps forward. An Hao turned to look back, seeing the majestic city gate of Divine Exotic City, and sighed in relief. Finally they were out. An Hao. A voice came from afar. An Hao looked and saw a group of cultivators in the distance, including LV Badian. An Hao quickly called out, "Master." He was about to go over, but Qi Bei blocked him. "From now on, do not acknowledge your association with the Supreme Sect," Qi Bei said sternly, his gaze fixed on the distance. An Hao frowned and asked, "Why?" "They are here." Qi Bei's expression turned serious. He raised his hand, pulling out a magic artifact ready for battle. Qi Jiuxiao also took out the dragon-slaying spear, cursing under his breath. "It's troublesome to be in the territory of the 7-star spirit realm. These guys move fast. After 7 days and the fall of 2 wandering immortals, it's impossible for the 7-star spirit realm not to have noticed," Qi Bei said calmly. Qi Jiuxiao looked at him and asked, "Master, what do we do?" Qi Bei sneered, "If the 7-star spirit realm makes a move, our Star Sea congregations will respond in kind." Hearing this, Qi Jiuxiao showed a smile of delight. He turned to look into the distance, his face lighting up with excitement. "So it's you, Qi Bei of the Qi family from the Star Sea congregations. Do you know the consequences of killing our disciples in the territory of the 7-star spirit realm?" An icy voice echoed through the sky, the killing intent in it sending a chill down the spines of all beings outside the city. The disciples of the Supreme Sect quickly stood up, nervously looking into the distance. Terrifying auras erupted from all directions, shaking the earth and mountains. And Hao looked around and found that they were surrounded. Such a fearsome aura, could it be from wandering immortals as well? He was secretly alarmed, his eyes turning towards Qi Bei, wondering if this senior could hold out. When would the wandering immortals of the Star Sea congregations arrive? "Oh, so this land belongs to the 7-star spirit realm. I thought you had long abandoned it." A domineering voice rang out, opposing the previous wandering immortal of the 7-star spirit realm. Qi Bei clearly recognized the owner of this voice, a smile appearing on his face. The true battle of the wandering immortals was about to begin. The world was desolate, and smoky ghostly mist pervaded the land. Chu Jingfeng stood on a gourd, surrounded by a faint light veil. His eyes were fixed ahead. The 9-fingered Divine Lord stood bare-chested, surrounded by fiery energy, his hair wild, looking like a war god, his posture imposing. In front of the 9-fingered Divine Lord floated a fiery red phoenix, its wings spanning 1,000 feet, flapping as fiery waves surged, like dragons sweeping towards the 9-fingered Divine Lord. "Humph! Since you refuse to bow, I can only subdue you." The 9-fingered Divine Lord spoke, his eyes cold, his body covered with black runes, crawling and horrific. With those words he suddenly charged towards the phoenix. The phoenix let out an ear-piercing screech, flapping its wings once more. The surrounding dust waves scattered, revealing terrifying ghostly figures, each 100 feet tall, clad in battle armor, wielding long weapons like ancient divine generals, exuding an unrivaled aura. In the blink of an eye, the 9-fingered Divine Lord was engulfed by these terrifying ghostly figures. Boom! A violent gale exploded, scattering the ghostly figures. The 9-fingered Divine Lord burst forth with relentless energy, striking towards the phoenix, shaking the mountains and rivers. This punch shattered space, and an ancient bell seemingly from the river of time emerged from a space rift, crashing directly into the phoenix. The enormous phoenix seemed small as a sparrow before a tree compared to this ancient bell. The phoenix let out a mournful cry, as chains emerged from the surface of the bell, quickly binding the phoenix. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free from the chains. The air was filled with a frenzied energy as more and more divine soul demons approached from all directions, of various sizes and forms, with even 1,000-foot-tall divine soul descending from the sky. The 9-fingered Divine Lord faced countless enemies alone, his punches and kicks like the wind, shaking the mountains and rivers, unstoppable. Chu Jingfeng stood on the gourd, his blood boiling as he looked on. Though he couldn't see the specific movements of the nine-fingered Divine Lord clearly, seeing those divine soul demons being destroyed one after another, he could feel the immense power of the nine-fingered Divine Lord. So strong. At this moment, Chu Jingfeng even felt that the Sword Dao was not the ultimate path. The path of the physical body was the strongest. The world roared and the earth continuously raised dust. No matter how many divine soul demons the nine-fingered Divine Lord eradicated, there were always more to come. Rumble, an enormous shadow rose at the edge of the world, like a mountain towering up, awe-inspiring. Chu Jingfeng looked from afar, feeling a chilling aura. What is that? He thought, terrified. Before he could think further, the mysterious giant shadow stepped out from the dust waves that covered the sky. It was a figure 10,000 feet tall, with a strong build, each muscle like a rocky mountain, exuding a power that made all living things fear. It was entirely black, with disheveled hair, wearing only armored pants, and holding a massive axe in its hand. Wielding the axe in both hands, it swept forward. The force of the axe, even without reaching, sent a devastating wind along its path, nearly flinging the gourd Chu Jingfeng stood on. The nine-fingered Divine Lord appeared in front of the gourd out of thin air, throwing a punch. Dong! The deafening roar echoed as the nine-fingered Divine Lord met the mysterious giant's axe with his own power. Both sides retreated. The nine-fingered Divine Lord frowned, feeling his right fist numb. The mysterious giant stabilized after retreating several steps, then swung the axe again. This time, the mysterious force from the heavens gathered on the axe blade, slashing down with the power of creation. The nine-fingered Divine Lord raised his hand, which had only 4 fingers, extending 2 fingers as a golden beam shot out, piercing through the murkiness of the world, sweeping all obstacles aside. Boom! The 10,000-foot-tall giant shadow was annihilated by the golden light, leaving a vacuum in the world, and a huge canyon appeared below, astonishing Chu Jingfeng. The nine-fingered Divine Lord turned and flew towards the phoenix. The phoenix was still trapped by the ancient bell, unable to move. Just as the nine-fingered Divine Lord was about to approach the phoenix, a figure appeared out of thin air, raising a hand to capture the phoenix. The phoenix with wings spanning 1,000 feet shrank to the size of a palm. "Who are you?" the nine-fingered Divine Lord asked in a deep voice. He didn't rashly advance as he couldn't gauge the person's strength. Guan, in his 9 extremes yin-yang body form, turned to the nine-fingered Divine Lord and said, "The immortal spirit, I'll take it." The nine-fingered Divine Lord's face instantly twisted with rage and H. Chapter 222, Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit Recognizes Its Master. Facing the furious nine-fingered Divine Lord, Guan remained composed. Holding the phoenix, he said, "Feel carefully, and you will understand that this karmic consequence is not something you can bear." Hearing this, the nine-fingered Divine Lord, who was about to attack, instinctively dispersed his divine sense. A few moments later, his expression changed drastically and fear filled his eyes. The divine soul demons were still pouring out, throwing themselves at them recklessly, their roars echoing through the heavens. Guan suddenly squeezed the phoenix in his hand, and the divine soul demons in the heavens were obliterated one after another, turning into ashes, and the noise abruptly ceased. Chu Jingfeng stood on his gourd, turned his head and looked at Guan in the distance, his face changing dramatically. A dark purple demon shadow, surrounded by demonic chi. Thud! He had just uttered a word when a terrifying divine sense locked onto him, scaring him into silence. The nine-fingered Divine Lord also regained his calm. He looked at Guan and asked, "What do you plan to do?" He could sense a more horrifying presence brewing beneath the earth. Purely in terms of aura, it was beyond what he could contend with. Guan did not answer but instead flipped his palm downward. Rumble, the earth shattered, rocks rose into the air, and the entire world seemed on the verge of collapsing. The momentum released by Guan was so terrifying that even the nine-fingered Divine Lord felt fear. Just how high is his cultivation level? The nine-fingered Divine Lord thought to himself, feeling fortunate. If he had acted rashly earlier, or if the other party had directly ambushed him, he might have been in grave danger. Chu Jingfeng also looked nervously downward. Rocks ascended around him, flying towards the sky. As far as the eye could see, the distant earth was breaking apart endlessly, a visual impact so intense that he did not dare to breathe. Suddenly, as if seeing something, his eyes widened and his body trembled. As the earth shattered, a massive black object appeared below, boundless and terrifying. In the daylight, this extreme black mass looked so horrifying and scary. Looking from above, the black mass below was writhing. It was so immense that its shape couldn't be discerned, much less identified. Guwen fixed his eyes on it. Divine exotic immortal spirit, heaven and earth flying immortal realm 3rd layer 0/0/0. No lifespan was shown, but there was a realm. Guwen's right hand, which was suspended in the air, suddenly clenched, and the gigantic divine exotic immortal spirit below began to shrink at a visible speed. This was a divine skill universe in the palm. Previously he had used this divine skill to bring the phoenix into his palm. This time he desired to capture a heaven and earth flying immortal. The divine exotic immortal spirit struggled frantically, but wrapped in Guwen's mana, it had no way to escape. Under the watchful eyes of the nine-fingered divine lord and Chu Jingfeng, the divine exotic immortal spirit, now a black mass, rapidly shrank. Eventually, it fell into Guwen's hand, resembling a mass of black qi, constantly changing shape. Guwen then disappeared from his original spot, leaving the nine-fingered divine lord and Chu Jingfeng behind, unable to recover their wits for a long time. After a long while, Chu Jingfeng flew to the nine-fingered divine lord's side and asked nervously, "Master, what should we do next?" He knew that the figure earlier was Sword Venerable Fudao, but he decided to keep it a secret. Sword Venerable Fudao was the most revered existence in the hearts of all disciples of the Supreme Sect. He had repeatedly saved the Supreme Sect and the human race of the three dynasties. Chu Jingfeng felt that he owed Sword Venerable Fudao his life, so he chose to side with him. Even if he revealed Sword Venerable Fudao's identity, he felt it would only push the nine-fingered divine lord into the abyss. From what had been shown earlier, the nine-fingered divine lord was no match for Sword Venerable Fudao. Thinking of this, Chu Jingfeng felt deeply emotional. During the days he followed the nine-fingered divine lord, he had thought that the nine-fingered divine lord was stronger than Sword Venerable Fudao, and that he had struck the ultimate blessing. But the result was, he couldn't help but wonder just how powerful Sword Venerable Fudao was. It now seemed that Sword Venerable Fudao was not from the Supreme Sect but was merely hiding there to protect them. The nine-fingered divine lord took a deep breath and said, "It's time to leave." Having the divine exotic immortal spirit taken away made him furious, but Guwen's universe in the palm divine skill had extinguished any desire to fight. Moreover, the aura emitted by the divine exotic immortal spirit was clearly not something he could handle. If the mysterious person hadn't appeared earlier, he might have been swallowed by the divine exotic immortal spirit and turned into a divine soul demon. Chu Jingfeng secretly breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing his master's words. He truly feared that his master would have an obsession. After wandering through Divine Exotic City for so long, he had already reaped some rewards and was eager to return to the Supreme Sect to meditate in seclusion. On the other side, Guwen arrived at the most secluded minor heaven and earth. There were no living beings here. The sky was dim and the ground was dotted with trees that looked like evil ghosts. He glanced at the divine exotic immortal spirit in his hand, no longer struggling but trembling. Just as Guwen hesitated about whom to give it to, it suddenly burst open and then drilled into Guwen's palm. The process was extremely quick. When Guwen wanted to stop it, he suddenly felt its emotions. It was pleading. Guwen fell silent. Soon, he felt his mana merging into the divine exotic immortal spirit's body. This was a process of accepting a master that he had never experienced before. He was taking control of the divine exotic immortal spirit and the entire divine exotic city. A 30-minute incense time later, the divine exotic immortal spirit reappeared, condensed in Guwen's palm. From now on, Guwen was the master of the divine exotic immortal spirit and the master of divine exotic city. This made him feel somewhat complicated. If he had forcibly stopped it earlier, the divine exotic immortal spirit would have turned to ashes, so he had to accept it. Of course, now Guwen could easily squeeze the divine exotic immortal spirit, causing it to cease to exist. After accepting the master, Guwen gained more understanding of divine exotic city. Even if the divine exotic immortal spirit was destroyed, as long as divine exotic city remained, a new divine exotic immortal spirit would be born. Whether it was the same one was unclear as it resisted death much. Master. The voice of the divine exotic immortal spirit echoed in Guwen's mind, sounding like a young boy. Guwen asked, Can you share your power with others, hiding the fact that I am your master and making others appear as your master? The divine exotic immortal spirit wiggled in his palm, suddenly transforming into a small black figure. It had no hair or facial features, just a body resembling a 5 or 6-year-old boy, standing about 10 centimeters tall. The divine exotic immortal spirit tilted its head, considered it for a moment and said, "It can be done, but wouldn't you be unhappy?" Guan replied, "No. I want you to protect one of my juniors, but you must not reveal my presence to him. You have to pretend that he is your master." Upon hearing this, the divine exotic immortal spirit nodded obediently. Guan disappeared with it. He arrived in another realm, a dense forest where Li Ya and Jianghu were resting. Guan directed the divine exotic immortal spirit with his mind to find Li Ya. The divine exotic immortal spirit immediately leaped from his hand and went to find Li Ya. In divine exotic city, the person Guan cared most about was undoubtedly Li Ya. Although Li Ya had numerous opportunities, he was clearly far behind geniuses like Inhao and LV so Guan decided to help him. As for Inhao, whether he had divine exotic city or not, he would eventually rise. If he joined the Star Sea congregations, he would possess immortal treasures no less powerful than the dragon-slaying spear, even without a fake immortal treasure like divine exotic city. The dragon-slaying spear was highly powerful, allowing Qi Jiuxiao to display power comparable to a loose immortal. The divine exotic immortal spirit hopped along its way, its aura elusive, unnoticed by Li Ya and Jianghu as they meditated. If the ghost mother of ephemera was in danger, surviving alone, let alone obtaining the immortal spirit, would be nigh impossible. Chapter 223 Guan's fantasy. Jiang Qiong grew more uneasy the more she thought about it. She took out an elixir and started accelerating the restoration of her spiritual power. The sky darkened, and the only sound was the lava below crashing against the mountain walls, making the atmosphere incredibly oppressive. Half a day passed. Jiang Qiong's spiritual power had recovered considerably. She stood up and headed in the direction the ghost mother of ephemera had gone earlier. Meanwhile, Li Ya had already mastered the power of the divine exotic city. Although he still couldn't see every corner of the city, he felt unbelievably powerful now. Before entering the divine exotic city, he had doubts about the legends of the Immortal Path's supreme treasure. How could it be that legendary? Let's go, there's a big battle outside the city. Let's go watch the fun. Li Ya stood up, his face full of high spirits. Jianghu followed him up, staring blankly at him. Li Ya shrugged his shoulder, and the divine exotic immortal spirit jumped out of his body, landing on his shoulder with its hands on its hips, looking very spirited. Looking at the divine exotic immortal spirit, Jianghu had a strange expression. It was hard to imagine that this little being was the immortal spirit of the Immortal Path's supreme treasure. Li Ya raised his right arm, and the divine exotic immortal spirit immediately mimicked him. Rumble, the ground trembled and the sky changed color, making Jianghu look around nervously. One by one the divine soul demons broke through the ground, lifting big trees into the sky. The same scene repeated everywhere, forcing Jianghu and Li Ya to stabilize themselves with their spiritual power. Li Ya laughed proudly, "These are my divine army. Follow me to conquer the world." Jianghu looked at him, just about to speak, when suddenly the ground beneath them rose with a roar. A terrifying giant shadow stood up, holding a piece of land in its hand with a forest on it, where Jianghu and Li Ya were standing. Compared to this terrifying giant shadow, they were as small as ants. This terrifying giant shadow was the same 10,000-foot figure that had fought against the 9-fingered divine lord before. One hand held the land, and the other held an axe, looking like a giant god who opened the sky, with divine majesty spreading wide. Jianghu looked down, his eyes wide with shock. Li Ya was extremely excited. With such a divine army, how could he not sweep away all enemies? He could sense a terrifying battle outside the divine exotic city, but he also saw the disciples of the supreme sect, and he had to step forward. Primordial ancestor, this time I will be the hero, watch me. Li Ya was trembling with excitement. He suddenly thought of Guan. If only junior brother Gu was here, how great that would be. But if junior brother Gu were here, he would still worry about his safety. Never mind, after this battle he would brag about it to him. Li Ya began to think about what treasures to bring back for junior brother Gu. The divine exotic city was so vast and had countless treasures. Just bringing a few out would be enough to reverse Guan's fate. Guan was in a minor heaven and earth, harvesting heaven and earth treasures. His lifespan kept increasing, which made him very happy. He saw that the 4 gates of the divine exotic city opened, and Leah rushed out with an endless stream of divine soul demons, immediately affecting the battle. Over 20 wandering immortals from the Star Sea congregations and the 7-star spirit realm were all disturbed and retreated. The 10,000-foot figure suddenly leaped out of the city, landing on the wilderness, roaring ferociously, and the sound echoed throughout the continent, making everyone tremble with fear. Just the roar alone was enough to make people lose their courage. Guan was not worried about Leah. After all, the divine exotic immortal spirit itself possessed the power of a heaven and earth flying immortal. He continued harvesting heaven and earth treasures, having gained an 80,000-year lifespan today. He did not intend to harvest everything, as he had to leave some for the immortal spirit to continue planting. Since the divine exotic city belonged to him, he planned to let the immortal spirit set rules for Leah. Usually, don't pluck the heaven and earth treasures randomly. It would prepare mature medicinal herbs for Leah, who would surely accept them excitedly without suspicion. Looking at Leah's spirited appearance made Guan want to laugh. After this battle, Leah would surely come to show off. Guan began imagining that 1,000 years later, when Leah thought his end was near and came to bid him farewell with the divine exotic city, what kind of scene would it be? Interesting. Guan was just thinking when he suddenly felt something. He frowned and disappeared from the spot. In another realm, thunder clouds rolled, covering the sky. In a basin between the mountains, Jianghu slowly stood up from the ground, clutching the wound on her right shoulder with her left hand, blood flowing continuously from the corner of her mouth. She looked ahead. Figures in black robes filled the slopes. Meditating at the highest point was an elder with a wooden staff beside him, from which black gas wafted, wrapping the ghost mother of ephemera in the air. The ghost mother of ephemera had already turned into a soul body and was extremely weak. She opened her eyes with difficulty and looked at Jianghu down the mountain. "Little girl, you have a good fighting spirit. Just right for luring the ghost king of hell." The black-robed elder spoke with a mocking tone. The other black-robed cultivators all looked down at Jianghu with cold eyes. To them, Jianghu was already a dead person. The ghost king of hell? What exactly are you looking for? Jianghu gritted her teeth, thinking about how to escape. The difference in cultivation was too great. Any one of these people could easily kill her. The ghost king of hell is the strongest ghost king hidden in this world. It guards an immortal treasure. The black-robed elder spoke nonchalantly. A black-robed cultivator started descending the mountain, step by step approaching Jianghu. Just as Jianghu was extremely anxious, a gust of wind came from afar, making her instinctively close her eyes. The gust of wind whistled past, and Jianghu felt her injury had somewhat healed, whether it was an illusion or not. She quickly opened her eyes and was astonished to find that those mysterious cultivators had disappeared. The soul body of the ghost mother of ephemera was suspended in the air above the slope, slowly falling. Before Jianghu could react, a whooshing sound came from afar, and a blood-red treasure pagoda descended from the sky, landing in front of her, scaring her to retreat instinctively. The blood-red treasure pagoda burst out with immense power, turning into blood mist, which quickly wrapped around Jianghu, pulling her towards the pagoda. Jianghu's face was full of fear when she heard a voice in her ear, "Do not panic." Hearing this voice, Jianghu instantly felt at ease. "Sword Venerable Fudao. He had come too." She was pulled into the blood-red treasure pagoda, her figure disappearing. The ghost mother of ephemera fell to the ground, turned her head to look, her face full of worry. Twilight approached. The towering divine exotic city stood on the wilderness, its 4 gates wide open. Cultivators continuously flew out, appearing as if they were being thrown out by some force instead of flying out on their own. Leah stood on a high slope at the edge of the ruins, the divine exotic immortal spirit standing on his shoulder, guarding him. 2 figures appeared beside him, one being Qi Bei, the master of Qi Jiuxiao, the other a middle-aged man in luxurious white robes, with a commanding presence. "I am the Sea Lord of the Star Sea congregations, Nan Fengtian. After this battle, the 7-star spirit realm will surely hold a grudge against you. You possess the immortal treasure, and relying solely on your own strength might not be enough to protect it. Come back with us to the Star Sea congregations. We will train you as a true disciple, treating you better than Shen Tianyi." The man in white robes spoke. Qi Bei followed. The Star Sea Congregations is a great righteous sect. Many cultivators from the Supreme Sect are your seniors, so you can join without worry. Leah looked at the divine exotic city and said, "Thank you both for your kindness. I am willing to join the Star Sea Congregations, but can I visit the Supreme Sect first?" He was not foolish. After this battle he had to choose a power to lean on. LV Badian had also just sent him a message, advising him to ally with the Star Sea Congregations. Nan Fengtian smiled, "Of course we also want to visit the Supreme Sect. I heard the Supreme Sect hides a great cultivator stronger than a loose immortal, named Sword Venerable Fudao. This indicates the Supreme Sect's great chi fortune. It's a treasure land." Leah smiled, thinking that Sword Venerable Fudao was his primordial ancestor. It was not the Supreme Sect's good fortune, but the sect had benefited from the Li family's chi fortune. Of course he wouldn't say this out loud to avoid causing trouble for his primordial ancestor. They continued chatting. Leah wanted to take two companions, Zhang Buku and Guan. Hearing that Guan was only in the Foundation establishment realm, Nan Fengtian advised against taking him, as his cultivation was too low. Without a nascent soul, joining the Star Sea Congregations recklessly would only lead to setbacks, especially since Leah couldn't always look after him. As for Zhang Buku, his strong chi blood made him an excellent candidate. Leah frowned, not very happy. Qi Bei had to continue to persuade him, describing the atmosphere in the Star Sea Congregations at length, and only then did Leah give up. Far in the Third Medicine Valley harvesting medicinal herbs, Guan pouted. "What Foundation establishment realm? I had already formed my core." Guan inwardly sneered, having no intention of joining the Star Sea Congregations. The Star Sea Congregations had too many old monsters, making it unsafe. Unlike the Supreme Sect, where Guan was already the strongest, he had absolute confidence staying there. Seeing that Leah allied with the Star Sea Congregations, Guan felt completely relieved. In the Divine Exotic City, he had harvested 1,500,000 years of lifespan, pushing his lifespan past 1,000,000 again, putting him in a great mood. He planned to revisit the Divine Exotic City after some time. Even if Leah went to the sea with his cultivation level, he could hardly escape Guan's divine sense. Besides, Guan had established a soul connection with the Divine Exotic City, ensuring he could track it wherever it went. Leah had begun expelling the adventurers from the Divine Exotic City. Guan had not only given Jiang Qiong an immortal treasure but also given Zhen Qin one. Immortal treasures could merge into the body, making them hard to detect. Once Yilan was unsealed and her maximum lifespan increased, Guan would give her an immortal treasure too. The Divine Exotic City held many immortal treasures. Controlling it brought unimaginable gains. Guan couldn't help but hum a little tune. Though he was hiding in the Medicine Valley, he could benefit those around him, making him feel truly great. Deeply hiding his work and name. One day when his companions discovered the truth, how much gratitude would they feel? Guan started to imagine again. Night fell and a night passed. At dawn, Guan saw Leah store the Divine Exotic City within himself and then, under the guidance of Nan Fengtian and others, head back to the Supreme Sect. They wanted to leave the continent early to avoid any mishaps. Guan arrived early at the Mystic Valley and followed the disciples in their exercises. Just as they finished, Leah came flying from the horizon directly into the Mystic Valley. Chapter 225 Outer World Cave. Jiang Qiong briefly introduced the formidable aspects of the Blood Domain Soul Suppressing Tower. This tower could suppress enemies. Once trapped within, they would lose their way and find it extremely difficult to escape. Moreover, they would constantly endure the burning of the blood flames within the tower, and if reduced to only their soul, there would be no chance of escape. According to the Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit, the Blood Domain Soul Suppressing Tower was absolutely one of the top 3 immortal treasures within Divine Exotic City, which was also the reason cultivators of the 7-star spirit realm sought it out. Most of the treasures within Divine Exotic City were plundered, some were seized by former owners from enemies, and others were left behind by adventurers after their deaths. The Blood Domain soul-suppressing tower had a long-standing reputation over the ocean and was considered a legendary supreme immortal treasure. Guan often exclaimed in amazement, which caused Jiang Qiong to involuntarily smile. Watching Guan's inexperienced expression, she did not feel annoyed. Instead, she found it amusing. In other places, her cultivation level was insignificant, but in front of Guan, she was a great cultivator. Even though many people looked down on her, as long as Guan admired her, it was enough. Jiang Qiong then recounted her experiences from past years, including the founding of the Zhuhua sect. Guan listened attentively, even though he often used his divine sense to keep an eye on Jiang Qiong. Hearing stories directly from her was more interesting. Night passed. By noon the next day, Guan leaped out of the medicine cauldron and quickly put on his robe. Jiang Qiong approached him, scrutinizing him with amazement and said, "I didn't expect your absorption speed to be so quick." Guan precisely controlled his qi blood, ensuring Jiang Qiong did not notice any issues. "Thank you," Guan said earnestly. Jiang Qiong thought to herself that this kid still wouldn't call her martial master. She would have been angry in the past, but now she felt a hint of delight. She raised her head and said, "Practice your sword well. Your sword Dao talent is outstanding. As for your cultivation level, I will find a way to help you improve." "This isn't appropriate. You should keep it for yourself. Giving it to me is a waste." Guan hesitated, genuinely grateful to Jiang Qiong. Having this intention was enough. There was no need to take it seriously. If combat prowess had a numerical value, with Jiang Qiong's help last night, Guan's combat power would have successfully increased from 100 billion to 100 billion and 1. Indeed, it had enhanced, but this slight increase in value was more valuable to Jiang Qiong. Jiang Qiong snorted, "Rest assured, I won't delay my cultivation." "I've prepared shape-shifting elixirs for you. You can shape-shift in the next few days," Guan said as he walked ahead. Upon hearing this, Tianqing and Tianbai were overjoyed and hurriedly came forward to thank their master for his gift. Demons could achieve shape-shifting through their own cultivation, but the shape-shifting elixir could speed up the process and increase the success rate. If they relied on themselves for shape-shifting, failure would mean death or severe injury, similar to crossing a tribulation. "Master, what about me?" Tian Yaoer asked as she held Tianbai, squeezing in beside Guan with a pitiful expression. Guan replied, "I've prepared a batch of qi blood-enhancing elixirs for you." The elixirs he prepared for Tian Yaoer weren't ones he refined but were purchased on Immortal Seeking Island, worth a fortune, and made by the top alchemy sect on the sea, the Purple Pill Palace. Chapter 226. Sudden Change in the Sea, Strange Fragrance. Guan did not personally oversee the shape-shifting of Tianqing and Tianbai. With Tian Yaoer around, he believed the two cat demons would be fine. Tian Yaoer's cultivation had reached the 9th layer of the core formation realm, capable of handling matters independently. Guan first returned to the Mystic Valley, taking a few laps around the valley before heading to the 3rd Medicine Valley. The number of servant disciples in the 3rd Medicine Valley had increased to 800. As soon as he stepped out of the transmission array platform, he heard a commotion. He glanced up and saw some disciples sweeping, some patrolling the area and others practicing spells. Under the distant trees, some were playing chess and Go. Guan was lenient in managing the disciples. As long as they completed their daily tasks, they could arrange their time freely. In the 3rd Medicine Valley, not all disciples were idle. Most harbored ambitions of becoming outer disciples, so they worked diligently to please Guan and obtain elixirs. Guan walked towards his pavilion. The Blood Prison Great Saint was dozing on the grass below the pavilion, nature's spiritual energy slowly flowing into his body. Suddenly the pavilion door opened, and Yu Yingying beckoned to Guan. Seeing this, Guan sighed helplessly and walked over. This pavilion belonged to Lu Lingjun. After Divine Exotic City was taken by Li Ya, Lu Lingjun returned. She was in seclusion for cultivation until Yu Yingying entered the valley, causing a change. The two of them unexpectedly got along well. Having heard that Lu Lingjun was a great cultivator in the Mystic Heart realm, Yu Yingying became intrigued and approached her, successfully befriending her through her Star Sea congregation's background. Guan didn't need to enter the pavilion to know what they would discuss. It was definitely about establishing the Ascension sect. Guan was also forcibly pulled into their plan. As long as he provided medicinal herbs, he could secure a high-level seat in the future. Upon entering, Yu Yingying closed the door. Guan walked into the hall. Lu Lingjun was sitting at the table, which was covered in papers, with a small white snake coiled on them. He sat down, teasing the white spirit demon emperor, enjoying stroking its snake head. The white spirit demon emperor, having concealed its cultivation, was usually docile. Besides, Lu Lingjun had privately instructed it, so it had to comply with Guan's actions. Yu Yingying quickly sat beside Guan, excitedly saying, "Recently my people have tracked the whereabouts of ascenders. And there's more than one." Guan responded irritably, "You dragged me into this just for that? I have no intention of leaving the supreme sect."